You're up.
Wonderful. Good evening, everybody. It is February 5th, 2025, 7 p.m. I'm sorry, 7:02 p.m. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Wellington Capital Improvement Program Committee to order. Christina, quick question before we move on. Were you able to get sworn in?
No,
Okay.
no,
No
sorry.
worries. Keep it on your to-do list. So members present, everybody's here except Melissa McKinnon. Here Peter Tanaka, Jeremy Brothers, Jeff Summers, Donald Tinzix, myself, James Marshall, Stu Cobb, Jim McCoo, Pete Bacon. And Christina Marlos is joining us online. So with that said, first item on the agenda is present to speak. If you would like to speak, we have nobody in the room, but if you're online and would like to speak, please just raise your hand and identify yourself for the record. Yeah. Pete, you're on that.
Mike.
Good evening, Mike McCoo, Clover Springs Drive. Having been involved with CIP and the Board of Finance for the last 6 or 7 years and presenting budgets to both for the last 20 or 30 years, I'm watching this new season with great interest. Happy to see some new faces on the group and also the wisdom and experience of the existing faces on the group. I hope each get something from each other, and as much as occasionally the chairman and I clash on some ideas, I am encouraged by the fact that he is trying to look at things in a new perspective. I appreciate some of that and agree with some of the perspectives he's striving for. I guess I would just hope that everybody, as you're working together through this tough season, knows that you're not going to be able to change the entire thing in one season, and to not be afraid of trying to change things, but also get the job that needs to be done for the actual budget season done without getting tangled up too much. And particularly in the discussions of clarifying things like how money gets moved, how money gets returned, I think the discussion is really good to get clear. And it is something, when I was chairman of the Board of Finance, I did try to get more clarity on, and partly because I didn't spend enough time pursuing it, and partly because our system probably has some gaps that can be filled. We didn't get as far as we hoped to do that. So I do look forward to that conversation and getting some clarity on those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else online? Going once? I'll let Andy in. All right, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting, but we're seeing no other hands. We'll move on. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from January 29th, 2025.
I move to accept the minutes of January 29th, 2025.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Pete. It is a page turner.
You mean because there's a lot of pages, or because it's particularly thrilling?
There's 11 pages. It's fun to enjoy. But as always, Lisa did a great job.
She did.
You have all had a chance to review. Any comments? There's none. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. With Christina not sworn in, do we need to do a roll call on
No,
that?
but you have to ask opposed anyway.
Oh, sorry, well, there you go. Any opposed?
Here we go.
There you go. Any abstentions? What do I gotta do for Christina here?
Nothing. I think we're good.
We're good. I'm having this other way.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, everybody. Next up is chair status report. I have no report. We got a lot on the agenda, so we're gonna skip and move right along to outreach. I have there's a number of items just to keep you guys up to speed on. Following Well, I was told, related to the senior center, I've had some follow-up conversations with both Karen Cody and Judy Campbell, who is apparently the senior center's facilities coordinator.
She's just appointed by the senior center.
Yeah, like.
She's been in the job like, yeah,
So
very few weeks.
there's been, following when I said they weren't anticipating a request this year, they are anticipating requests now, and they're working to get it. Submit those by Monday at the latest, so that we can send them out, and then they'll come to talk to us about the request. One of them is a new van for the senior center potentially, as well as ADA doors, for the toilet rooms updates. I don't know how that all works in yet, we haven't seen the data, but just be aware that they are anticipating requests in some form or fashion this year. See where that falls when they present them. The library is still waiting on the, they've been back and forth. They're gonna resubmit the projects that they had on the plan last year because the town engineer is still working on updates. Following all the ARPA requests related to the retaining walls. So they'll send along what they have, and potentially come in and likely come in to discuss next week, as scheduled, but we'll try to focus on anything they see imminently in this year. When I have further information, I'll let you know.
Jim, could I ask about that? When you say resubmitting requests from last year, meaning
They
some are still open, they feel?
had the out year requests. They had one request per year, I think, initially related to gutters, pointing, window painting, stuff like that. I think they were gonna resubmit those until they have further clarity from the engineer.
Okay,
If we get it, I guess the town engineer had a computer failure and is backlogged, so they're not, as ready as they hope to be. Was the last direction I got as of today, so. But we'll talk more about that next week with them. I was, following our last meeting, Bill Stevens reached out, looking to coordinate a discussion with the Board of Ed related to the long-term, the initial long-term planning concepts kind of presented 2 weeks ago, when the Board of Ed was here. So I'm working to set up the time for that. It might be before our meeting on the 19th as a special meeting for the Board of Ed.
it is.
I don't know if that's.
That was proposed.
And then that would segue right into our meeting, so I will keep you up to date. I have a appointment to set up a meeting with Bill to just kind of go over what the board is potentially looking to discuss based on a couple of weeks ago, so I will let you know as that gets finalized over the coming weeks. And then there was some discussion back and forth with Chief Snyder about the request last week related to release of funds. And letting us know that he's going to approach his board and asking for some follow-up, so we'll address that. We'll talk more about that later in the meeting. But that's what we got. Anybody else hear anything? Christina, you see any emails or anything come in? That weren't copies from me?
Nope.
All right. So that's all I've got for outreach and communications. It's good that people are talking, which is good. And with that said, we'll move on to the man of the hour. Tonight we have Public Works, Capital Request Review, Local Board of Selectmen. And we got a number on the list, so I think we'll jump right in and ask questions. Like last week, I think it makes sense if you guys agree to start with the vehicles and equipment. Because they're kind of self-contained to a degree.
They in that order in the stack or?
Probably not.
Okay.
No.
Can you call out the bingo numbers again?
I can call so 20-9 is the first one I've got on my list. It's the $300,000 request for 25-26. Replacement of a dump truck at 2015 plow. And actually, I'm gonna share. 29. If I find it. These are okay. I'll share the version of the visual inventory. Not as helpful. Second, and I'll get this. That's not the one. Let's try presentation. There. Trying to go back. That worked good slow. Hold on. Let's try this again. There's your fleet. Let's try that. Window. All right. So this is the same, no edits to it from last year, but the 2015 Freightliners is number CIP 22.9. Troy, fill us in, give us a little back.
All right, so this is the 2015 Freightliner. So if we were to keep the trucks on a 10-year cycle, this truck would be replaced. I know we bought a lot of trucks in the last 4 years. But keeping on a 10-year cycle, if we kept, this truck would be replaced. It's used to plow the roads, we haul wood with it, you know, haul sand, mulch, whatever it is. It does get used daily, probably more out of than the newer trucks. We kind of use that a little bit instead of putting the wood in the stainless steel bodies. This has a regular steel body on it, it's a little stronger than stainless steel. But basically just, we would keep it on our 10-year cycle, that's what it would be. The prices keep going up. I spoke with a gentleman from Freightliner. If the truck was, if it was approved, this could be probably on next year's order cycle. It wouldn't be ordered now, basically.
But you need to get payment for it.
Yes, yeah, or a letter of intent to say that we're gonna purchase the vehicle.
What's the lead time on receipt of that?
In 6-8 months to a year.
Once,
Once, exactly,
plus
yeah.
the year to get into the rotation.
Yeah.
So we'll call it 18 months, 18 to 20 months.
Yeah.
Roughly that.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just because I had a frame of reference for the fire vehicles last week. Is there any kind of like industry standard for how often you replace your vehicles, or is it just basically? Also, I don't know, I don't even know how to make something up. Is there an industry standard?
No, I think it's just on how, you know, each town, I spoke with multiple towns, sometimes they keep vehicles longer, they'll use them as a spare, but on average, it's a 10-year cycle for a plow truck, just with the corrosion, salt stuff, so.
Is there visible like corrosion or damage, like pervasive damage to the truck?
Yes, I guess this truck along, when it was first purchased, it hit a stump or something and the frame actually got tweaked on it. So Freightliner did fix it, they did some work to it, but the body, if you were to look the side dump, it stays up about 2 inches on the frame. So, I mean, it still works, but it's not, there is some visible damage. It happened years ago with it, so.
Do you guys have the potential, again, this is my frame of reference from last week, do you guys also have the potential to refurbish vehicles? Or is that just,
It could be, yeah, the price on that to refurbish them, they can put a new body on it, you know, you can sandblast it, go through the motor, do all that stuff. I really haven't got a cost estimate on that, but. I mean, it is a possibility, but remember, it's still in. You know, if you put something in 10 years, how long are you gonna keep the next truck for that long? So it is a possibility to refurbish it.
$300,000 quote for the replacement. How fresh is that?
That's pretty, he said that it would never go above that. You're looking at probably like 289, 290 right now for it, yeah. But I use the 300 mark just to make sure that everything.
That's
No surprises.
just a verbal.
Yeah.
And that's fitted out to what you need.
Yeah,
Plow.
yeah, plow everything, yeah,
Sand and equipment.
everything, yeah.
Related to the 2015 Freightliner, what are you seeing for like service costs year over year that would be outside routine?
We've had some issues with that, truck, some electronic issues. I mean, we've spent some, I would say probably this year, we've probably close to $10,000 probably on it. Just this year alone, yeah. Yep.
You guys track mileage and service
Oh, yeah.
hours on these?
Yeah.
How does this one kind of stack up to historical trends or?
It's just, it's
Yeah,
it's
I
one
get
of those
I get
things.
that it's no set.
exactly
thing,
different
but I
drivers
understand
and
that this is, you know. If we're 10 years in and had the service life of, you know.
Well, no,
the vehicle
it's
replaced 2 years
Not a
ago.
fair metric
Yeah.
to measure because it varies on mileage, in per town and like how many, you know,
Right.
we have 70 miles.
Yeah, it's not, the
Road
truck
is town,
is
but other towns may have
more than what, yeah.
300, so you can't, it's not, you can't compare it like that.
Is it the highest mileage truck in the fleet?
Yes, currently right.
How long are, when you get a new one, how long is the warranty on that?
The warranty?
Yes.
Yes, they do 7-year warranties now. We do extended warranties with them, so yeah. So that pretty much covers everything besides like tires and brakes and you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that, but your normal wear and tear, but any engine, transmission, anything like that, we do 7-year warranties on. Yeah,
Okay.
and the town paid for that, but it was an extended warranty on top of what. Freightliner did.
Okay, and then we can't extend it until the 10th year, that's when it. those
Yeah,
last
no,
3
yeah,
years.
it was when the truck was purchased, we had to purchase the extended warranty. On the 2 new ones, the one we got last year and the one that came this year has the extended warranty on them.
And that cost is factored
Into the price of
The
it.
purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
given the model years of these, and I assume, I don't know, the model year, depending on the trigger on this. We're really on a 2-year
Yeah, you
cycle. How does that transition, or what's the plan for phasing this into a 10-year? You know, is it really a 10-year cycle? Or are we gonna have? Because quite frankly, the 2020 Freightliner by that metric would pretty much be up on year 5 of our plan, but there's no submission on it.
Right, exactly. Well, because this truck was pushed out 4 years from last year. So I mean, then it wasn't adding up. So that's exactly. If you're gonna keep on a 10-year cycle, then that's the truck that needs to be put out for that long.
All I got. Anybody else? We move on to the next 9 or 10. I got how many minutes?
Which one?
All right, thank you for that one, Troy. I have 25-3, which is the mower.
Number?
CIP 25-3, roadside mower, again. Year 1 request for 99.5.
That's all we will get then.
And that's the one that had a supplemental quote attached to it, which you should all have in your packet as well. Immediately following. All right, so this one, where are you at on the? This says committed. In the submission itself.
Probably check them.
That's all right. So this is, what's the date on this quote?
We just quoted that out.
Oh, yeah, that's recent.
Yeah.
Good
Good
for
to 131.
And the one with that is actually, it was 99.5 for everything, and then they actually did it was $3,500 more than that. The guy forgot to put the DOT package, the light package into it. Has a backup alarm and everything like that, so it was 103,400, I believe it was, something like that. So, yeah,
So it was 103 total,
Yeah.
but that's cash price on here. The actual quote works out to like 100, almost $115,000.
no, don't worry about, that's what we would get for it, that's if somebody else was to purchase, we pay the cash price with our municipal discounts.
And it doesn't necessarily need to be a cash.
No.
Okay, that's all I
Yeah,
was
no,
really
that
trying
was-
to go with that.
yeah,
We're not, if it impacts what funding's supposed to get to.
No,
So that could be, would that be a lease?
I would imagine it would be.
Potentially,
Potentially, yeah.
but it could be a purchase.
And you gotta remember, if it
Either or,
was,
that price is good no matter how we.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and there would be a trade-in value on the other mower if it was.
I feel very confident that you just said this somehow, but I didn't catch it or understand it. So this is the total retail price plus 50,875 does not equal $99,650.
Friends and family discount.
Yeah, no, the one he told me was 99.5, that's what he said with everything, and then the 3,500 on top of that for the light package.
Now, does that come with a 60-inch side mower for that price?
Yep.
So the actual request.
Did this recently buy a side?
Yeah, well, a new flail mower.
Flail mower.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm just having a hard time understanding why a quote wouldn't add up to the price that we're paying.
I don't have that.
What do you mean?
What was?
On the, because there is a municipal, there's a.
There was a
retail
municipal,
quote,
yeah,
And then there's a
municipal
municipal
discount
quote,
came
which
to
is
the,
less
yeah.
than the retail.
Well,
quote.
the one that we have, well, the one that I have says 64,000 is the retail price. Additional sale price items is $50,000, which adds up to $99,650. I'm not good at math, but I know that's not true.
Yeah, it's like, that's why I said it's 115 non-cash price in this quote.
I don't, yeah, I don't have that in
I'm
front
not, I'm
of
still
me, but yeah.
trying
Here it
to
is.
spot.
Yeah, no, because it isn't that one, that's something that was 90, you know.
It is 90, you get,
99.
the next, you see the two breakouts, the right on. Total retail price and then additional sale price items for page 2.
That looked at 114,991.
Yep.
Well, you know what, I'm gonna have to talk to him about that then.
So that's 5875 is the additional
Yeah,
60-inch mower, the 102 offset,
yeah,
and the required cutoff switch.
Mhm.
If you can just follow.
Yeah, I'll follow up
clarify
with
that,
you on that,
especially
yeah.
since
yeah,
informally with the 3,500 on top of
Yeah.
that. too.
we'll get up, yeah, I'll email that over to you, I'll speak with
Thank
you
you.
tomorrow.
So is this purposely being purchased as a mower?
So, yeah, so right now, we have the big mower that we bought in 2018 with the over the rail mower. Then we have the small little M&B mower that's got like the little mower on the side that does like the first pass. This tractor would have a drop down middle flail mower. So we'd mow, it's a smaller size tractor, it'll mow the first pass, and then it has a mower in the back of it if there was any wider areas with it. It doesn't have an arm on it, it's just a mower that drops down 90 degrees. So that's all that would be. It's not like the big over the rail mower like we have, like you've seen on the side of that, like he cuts back 50 feet, yeah, this one's totally different. With it. The mower, the M&B mower is seen, like, we've had problems with the wheel bearings on it, it chews tires, the tires are like $4,000. It chews 3 tires a season, it's causing some problems. And
So this would be instead of that?
yeah, so we would trade that little mower in and that would take the place of the mower that Jeff runs.
Sorry, Troy, this is the 2006 on my screen. You have this as a 2009 in Samil.
So, again.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm calling out, this is not the correct slide that I sent.
Yes, I know, you
So it was
deleted some of
updated
that, you deleted some of the inventory that's out of service.
because it doesn't exist at all, but also the dates were incorrect on the original one that you
Okay.
sent me.
So is this
So it's
2009?
a 2009.
It's a 2009,
Okay,
yep.
thank you,
Yeah, so I was updating all of that, so you have the correct information to make decisions on.
thank you. I'll go back and double check.
So do you have a projection on what the trade-in value is? Did I miss that?
No, not yet, no.
What happens to trade-ins? Is that? Where does that go?
The money is applied toward the purchase price.
Okay, so it just comes off the top. So up to whatever the revised quote is. That comes.
Did you say what the lead time was on this?
They could have it as soon as, if it was, yeah, the tractors are in stock and, yeah.
So would
So
you say immediate then?
Yes, yeah.
And the small mower is a not an 09
Yes, the small mower is an 09.
that is not effectively working.
Yeah, no, it's working now. That, we still use it, but we've had multiple issues with it. It chews
Right,
through
it's-
tires.
Right, it's not,
It's, yeah,
got it.
we have to use it. We use it to blow leaves in the fall, even in the spring when the dirt roads, before we grade them, we use it. But it does get used in the summertime to mow almost every day.
It spent a lot of time
Yeah.
in the shop this
This
year, a lot of
yeah.
downtime,
We
with
had the boom
repairs.
all
Yeah.
bushed and pinned, because it was about ready to fall
It
off.
was daily sometimes.
Yeah.
If you people don't know, this is Heather.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Heather's assistant for choice.
It's a resident capacity, so I didn't really mean to be, I meant to come in, I was really here as a resident,
You're
not.
welcome, thank you.
Are you doing work in the office or what's your role with
I'm
Public Works?
the administrative assistant for the
Okay.
department, yeah. But I was here as a resident, Heather Allison, Aqua Farms Road.
Well,
No, too late. You got too much expertise, I think.
That's also known me too, so.
Are there any capabilities you'll lose by going to this new tractor? You got the blower thing on the front of the other one.
Yeah, we can put, so on the back of the tractor has a 3-point hitch and that blower runs on the 3-point hitch, we can put it on the back of the tractor, so. Yep.
Anybody else? All right. The last one on the list is the John Deere loader, another 25-26 request 22-8. The 25-26 request, 235,000.
So this would be on a 20-year cycle to replace the loader. If we were to replace it at this time. We put quite a bit of money into it last year. It does, we do use it daily, it's used, especially now in the winter time, it loads all the trucks. We use, to get trees off the road. Forks on it, we're taking stuff off of the trucks that we get. It does get used.
do you have such a thing as, like a used, vehicle, I don't know, like you go to the store and buy used cars or something, do you guys have like used vehicles that you would be able to purchase if you found one that was suitable?
Like a piece of equipment or like a truck or anything like that, or
I don't know.
anything, there is used, but it comes with, no warranties, it depends on what it is. Sometimes like John Deere will like lease out a payloader for like the winter time. Do a contractor for like plowing parking lots, something like that, and then they cut their somewhat of a price off with it. It's an option, if that's what we're looking to do.
Well, I'm just wondering, cause
The problem is having the funding to do it. You know what I mean? If the John Deere guy's like, hey, I have a new loader that's gonna come up in April. I'll take, $30,000 off the price of it, or just to say, can you commit to it? Well, we can't commit until it's,
Right.
It's one of those things, if you had that commitment of cash or a payment, then you could do something like that.
It's been looked at in the past, the challenge has been getting the money, it will be in like Ritchie Brothers auctions. Which has a big pile of stuff that they, quarterly or whatever they do their auctions. But you have to walk in there basically cash in hand. And you don't know what the price is gonna be till the day of the auction. And given municipal finances, doing approvals by selectmen and board of finance, town meeting, whatever it requires. You can't buy a thing at an auction if you don't have the money in hand ready to go.
Donna, is there any experience with having taken advantage of auction prices in the past? And if so, how did we do that?
No.
Okay, so we can't do something like
You'd have to have. the
send
price
someone
puts
off
on
to an
a-
auction with a certain
Go to the. auction
buy-in
fund.
site,
That could be
anything like
dangerous.
that?
Yeah, that would be.
That
very-
could be dangerous, like. It's right across from Foxwoods.
You're willing to try, though.
This is about just kind of leaving money on the table, though, it seems like.
So. Would that be something to consider for like implements? Or,
Yeah, right, they do have it, it's just having the funding to do it.
having
That's-
some.
Yeah, that would be the hardest thing.
it just seems like such a huge topic. Is there are there resources we could investigate as far as like how we could go about that fiscally? I feel like makes way more sense than buying brand spanking new things. If we could get them used, but in a good condition. I don't know.
Sometimes those auctions, they come out of Florida and they were flooded,
Yeah, they're
and you're putting
as
thousands of dollars into something that. Or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You're buying as is.
No.
Has it, no warranty. Somebody
while
could have ran out of
initially-
oil for,
Yeah,
for 10 hours and you're putting a brand new motor in
so
the
while
thing
initially it might be a new
after
deal,
shelling
but
out a lot of money.
There's no like 5-star service.
yeah,
No, no, no,
No,
a lot of risk.
no car facts, no car facts.
All right, well, I'm gonna keep thinking about it.
What's the lead time on?
they haven't, that's,
They haven't, it's not-
yeah, that's about it. And then we would be trading in the other loader too, you know, that something would be a cost.
It's just, that, it feels like this one's more accessible for some kind of deal though with John Deere or with the dealer.
With the deal, yeah.
So my question is, because we've got 3 in year 1, 3 big vehicle purchases in year 1. You know, it does kind of make sense to look at one of them as a potential for, you know, used and in good condition.
Absolutely.
Based on your judgment.
I mean, they do take used equipment in, I mean, people like, you know, sometimes people can't afford it or something like, you know, it happens. Or, you know, they put them out on a rental for, and then, you know, yeah, it does. It's, if that's the direction you wanna go in, then I can speak with the, you know, John Deere dealer to see if something comes in with low hours, you know.
I mean, that type of equipment is ubiquitous, so you don't need the customization that you would need with a plow truck.
Right.
That, you know, for those kind of duties, so there's probably more flexibility with that.
If you had to prioritize one of these 3, which one is most important?
Honestly, I would probably say the plow truck. I would say the plow truck, the mower, and then the loader. We put some money into the loader. I mean, it still runs, it's still, but it's still one of those things where, you know, if you pushed it out a year, sure, I would say absolutely, go ahead, go for it. But I would say the plow truck and the mower are your two priorities that I would say would at the top.
So in order of presentation.
I mean, the mowers, I mean, we mow the edges of the road. I mean, the sight lines, everything like that. It's,
Yeah.
you know, that's. You're safe. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, for sightlines, but also in the fall with the leaf blower
Yep.
drainage. Issues for public safety, so. I mean, it's- yeah,
Yeah, like, I would have no problem pushing out the loader for another year. That wouldn't be. If something was to set with the truck and the mower.
Anything else? Moving on. Move on. So the next couple are smaller ones. You guys mind starting with 25-1 and muddy and propane heaters? 25,000, you do request?
So, yeah, so currently the regular modine heaters that are in the garage now, there's 4 of them. They're probably as old as the building. They're a secondary heat because we have a waste oil furnace that we burn the oil from the transfer station. A few times we've had some problems with our waste oil furnace this year that we had to turn on the propane heaters. There's 2 that currently work. Hydrogen came out, basically dismantled the other ones to make these 2 work. It's something to look forward to, that if something ever happened to the waste oil furnace, or we didn't have waste oil to burn, that we would have no heat.
Is this quote, well, you don't have a quote, but 25,000.
It will be less than that. When he did a verbal quote to us and he said max 25,000, we were looking probably about 20,000 to do it, 21,000.
2 reporting here,
To do all 4, yeah,
and that's installed.
that's
That
installed,
would
yeah.
cover installation.
Yeah, it was just a verbal over the phone where, like, do it on the high side versus the low side and have an issue.
How old is that building?
1988. 88, and the current propane is obsolete, it can't even,
Yeah, they can't, they dismantled 2 of them to try to make
Yeah.
the 2 other ones work. Yeah, the guy was.
and the cost of the new propane, would also increase the efficiency.
Yeah.
And expense of that utility, because the current ones are not even remotely as efficient as the units are today. I mean, 1988. Yeah, That just speaks for itself, it's very different now.
Was it like a critical fail or did they just kind of stop working overtime?
And just over time, they've been limping along and then, but we have the waste oil, which, I mean, with the town would have to pay to get rid of that, so we use it, but then if there is a problem with the waste oil furnace. And it happens, this year it went down when we had that cold snap and they couldn't get to us, so that's when they came out and did the propane. And, you know.
And the waste oils also depend on the supply that we
Yeah.
receive at the transfer station from,
Right.
so it's
We were
not.
down to the last barrel or 2 barrels.
We had about 600 gallons left,
full
and
snap.
then, yeah, and then people bring it in. We call around and other companies, you know, bring us some oil, but we haven't bought any yet. So.
It's pretty important.
So on 25 propane heaters.
Oh, I have another, sorry.
Go for it.
Is this something you'd have to send out to bid or is,
Well, we have, that I'm not sure, I don't know, because we have a contract with High Grade now, so I guess. They would.
but for the
gas.
heaters?
That's who would do they would do the heaters. So
Do
I'm
they
not
have to
sure,
do the heater?
they don't have to, but I mean, we have a contract with them that service and maintain. You know, they're the ones who install the propane tanks, we didn't go out to bid for the propane tanks when we did it.
They maintain them too.
Yeah.
Other companies may install, you know, the new units, but doesn't mean they're gonna maintain them. And there has been in the past a cost associated with that, where we had a different company that was cheaper, but they didn't maintain them correctly and the propane, the pilots and everything suffered for it, like they were, you know, they weren't. It had to be replaced or fixed because it wasn't maintained.
I just don't have a frame of reference as to how much 2 propane heaters would cost. So I guess that's just my question. Like, is there another place that would be cheaper than 25,000?
No, I don't think it wouldn't be just replacing the 2 that aren't working, it's
really
replacing
all
all
4.
4, because
Yeah.
the ones that are currently there, the 4 that are
I
there,
didn't know there was 4.
Yeah.
there's 4,
Yeah.
and 2 are inoperable.
Yeah.
They're not able to fix them because the parts are obsolete.
I got it. So
So,
2 are
yeah.
working and then you have the waste oil.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
There's 4 total, they just settle 2 to make 2.
Two.
Right, to
Yes.
to
So they
cannibalize
use
those
that-
parts
yeah.
for the new,
Scavenge parts
yeah,
Off of them,
Got it.
yeah,
To make them work, so they had heat over the cold snap.
Yeah,
thank you.
yes, thanks.
So what is the company you're under contract with?
High grade gas right now.
What is it?
High grade,
I'm just still curious about, how, like, I just have no frame of reference as to how much those.
I mean,
things are.
I'm sure it could go out to bid, I mean, if that was to do it, I mean, I just didn't know if we were under contract that. To have something. That's a
Well,
question.
we
for you.
usually do bid though. I mean, we usually do seek bids even when we have that and then, you know. Obviously, sometimes we go with the bid because we trust the maintenance
yeah.
company better. But it's kind of good to have the comparison, because if the expense is really different, there may be an inclination to grab that savings. I mean, I know that that's happened in other departments, but.
Months.
There's no, I don't think there's any competition for that.
And you, I just wanna make sure that this is wrapped up. So are we gonna bid or? would
Yeah,
you-
no,
Yeah, no,
that's no
no,
problem,
yeah.
we can go get, yeah, that's not. a
I don't wanna
problem.
make
I mean,
you. I'm just,
No,
I don't
no,
know if
that's-
that's the
no.
process or if there's like.
I just didn't know if we would void something in the contract with High Grade that, you know, they maintain, if somebody else puts something in.
Mhm.
That now their High Grade's not gonna maintain it or whatnot,
Only if it's continuing on warranty, you know.
You know, that's right.
The equipment, if
yeah.
they have a different vendor,
So that would
so.
be a good thing to check before you go out. to
Yeah,
bid.
so I was
Yeah,
thinking,
that's-
can you check the contract? Do they check that or do you? They-
I only have the contract for purchasing propane from the vendor.
Yeah,
So that's,
so yeah, I can.
Something
find
you
out
would
with
check.
that, yeah.
Feels like
Okay,
that
thank
could
you.
potentially be separate, but
Yes.
yeah, the service, the install and service. Leave.
Cause that is a bid thing, they bid on that every year, I believe. the
Yes, they
propane.
do.
So that's, yeah.
Good. Good. All right. Tell me about CIP 22-4, stormwater interceptors, 45K. Fiscal year 25, 26.
Have you got the number again?
22-4. So stormwater interceptors, this is over at the top, right?
Yep, that's up at the transfer station. So that's been going on since 2015. They're basically oil separators, at the transfer station. So they replace the two catch basins where they are, and they would go in there and they would be pumped out from the company, and anything that drains out into them. would go over. That's all. And it would be compliance with our MS4 permitting that we're supposed to be doing.
Wasn't that supposed to be done a while back?
2015 maybe?
Yeah.
I believe it was finally approved a year or two ago. Was it?
The what was?
The stormwater, wasn't that funded? In the past couple of years?
They were supposed to do a GIS survey of. every
Yes, that's all,
catch
yeah,
basin.
that's all done.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
That's what that
that's all.
funding is for.
Yeah, that was-
Mapping all the storm, the
Storm.
catch basins and.
That
Yeah.
was-
I think that if you want clean ducts in the long run, you want oil separation, that's all. You know, give a crap about the environment, let's keep it the way it is.
But
Well, certainly
not,
not just about ducks, drinking water.
Yeah, you know,
not having a history of this going back to 2015, Troy, is that $45,000 number, how?
Yeah, no, that's pretty, cause we would do the work, Public Works would do the work, so that's all we have to do is just buy the interceptors.
That's it, and that's really not somebody designing that system.
No, Carl had there's a set of plans for it and
And that's
everything.
current.
Current, yes.
Even though
Yep.
it's a 10-year-old set of plans. that-
Nothing would change with that, cause it's still on our state permit that we have for our transfer station.
It costs $45,000 for an interceptor, whatever that is,
it's a
That-
big chunk of concrete.
Yeah, but yeah.
still.
2 pieces of concrete.
It's wild.
I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, this may be a question for you or maybe Donna, the town engineer, anything that's engineered by the town engineer, where does that, how is that funded?
From the town engineer line on the
We have a
budget,
budget line, I can't
Yes.
remember.
yes.
Okay. Is it frequently under budget, frequently over budget? I was wondering how, like.
I don't know the history on it, but it's been frequently under budget, I believe. We've never had to add to the fund as far as I can remember, but
I think Carl has some low prices.
Yeah.
I think if you were to get another,
Industries, yeah,
would go way up.
Why I'm asking the question,
Yeah.
understanding that
That's-
there's potential.
it is well below the industry standard, and I've worked with many engineering firms.
Yeah, that's,
Oh, yeah.
his
Uh,
prices are still back 30 years ago.
Okay. Well, we talked about this pretty extensively last year too, but, we got a couple of new members, so.
Just to also add to the interceptors, the MS4 is a mandate, and we were technically supposed to have 7 years to kind of get these things up to speed, and we're past that mark.
Then what happens?
Then, I mean, they haven't enforced it, but they can at any time, the student can, the deep can, and there would be fines associated with that. I don't know what they would be. It's coming.
some first selectmen's gonna have to talk real nice.
Is it retroactive?
I mean, we're complying. We're complying with.
Yeah, it is. That's what it is. We're trying, yes, but it's,
No, but, yeah,
it's
10
eventually.
years is 10 years, that's the problem. Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. So. How about bus lot paving? CIP 22-5, another small one.
Yeah, so that's been on there for a while.
Well, yeah, so you have this as a year 3 request.
Cause
but
they
it's
keep
been
getting
hanging
pushed
there
off.
since 2017, is it
Yeah.
really a year 3 request?
Well, there was discussion with the new school, and if there was, I mean, or when that happened, it kind of got pushed away. That's, so, I mean, I don't know whether, if there's plans with the school or what. But the tractor trailer trucks turn around in there, there's puddles, and I mean, it gets pretty rutted up.
It's a liability issue for any of the employees.
Yeah, I mean, in puddles and I mean, we patch them as much best as we can, but it's, it's one of those things where there's really no drainage there. There's like a basin in the middle of it and that's it. Everything kind of just goes to the middle. It's not, yeah, it's.
Is that $60,000 number accurate? Because the fire departments for 24 Old Farms just had an old quote for paving. That went from 35,000 to 100 and something, or 100,000.
To do that parking lot?
So
Was there
that's
something else besides paving though?
the question.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was,
there was,
it's something about the,
there was
the
stuff that.
septic.
Oh, so maybe that's, no, that was, it was a verbal price from Allstate Asphalt to do that parking lot, when he looked at it last year, like. So,
At least a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
They paving prices stayed pretty steady last year, all summer they.
yeah.
What's your crystal ball saying for 3 years from now?
I'm just saying last year they.
Yeah, I get it.
Depends on the price of oil. Real baby grill.
And Canada tariffs,
Yeah.
retaliatory tariffs.
All right, there's nothing beyond grading, paving.
No, that was- yeah.
We're not installing anything.
Nope.
We're regrading.
No,
I'm saying,
it
I'm
was just, yeah.
not saying I'm in favor, I'm just saying what.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I know that you've been asked this before, but is there anything we can do? Like, is there some high court or something where we could mention the chronic problem that we have at this lot? To whoever oversees, the truckers industry or whatever, and using this as something that's non-sanctioned and. Yeah, it's a small town, but we happen to have 2 truck stops,
I think people just get lost with GPS and they just turn right there, they look at somewhere.
I know it's really not all their
Yeah.
fault. Is the signage that bad or is the reading?
No, there's signs,
Test
up.
that bad.
There was a gate up, that was up and then a truck ended up hitting it, and then at the time, the funding was not there. I mean, a gate can be installed, but then once again, everybody keys, this, that.
Yeah.
We pull in there in the middle of the night, who shuts the gate? It was.
There's
that was-
plenty of signage.
There's plenty.
Especially like the dirt roads between, Loves and they just ignore it.
We're having.
Yeah,
a
I mean,
problem.
that's what I mean, is
Real
go,
problems.
leverage it a little bit. Is there
There's
there
no-
some way to say? This is conduct unbecoming and it's at a real cost for us. Not that we're not gonna have to pave it every now and then,
Yeah, no, I
It
don't,
may be due anyway.
I just
know
don't
that.
think that
This
you'd ever
is
stop it no
not a
matter
unique
what.
problem. Polson
Yeah.
Road, they have a bridge that they can't make the turn,
Yeah.
and they've torn down the guardrail there 4
Multiple
times this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we have it posted multiple signs on both ends, and I'm working with the town of Stafford to try to stop it. And the problem
What was
with a
that,
tractor
the problem
trailer
with
is it has a really big motor that goes wherever the driver pushes it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a problem with one of our big road repair
Yes,
situations,
Yes.
right? Turnpike Road or something.
turnpike caved
Well,
in.
Moose Meadow,
Moose Meadow.
Moose
2
Meadow.
years ago, yeah.
Okay, just asking.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Just
there's
keeping it
signs,
alive,
no,
you know?
there's signs, yeah, I don't know if you'd ever really stop that besides putting a gate up. I mean, they turn on to Hancock, they drive up the hill right there and back down, I'm surprised nobody's got into
Yeah,
a serious accident there. And half of them can't drive, they just drive straight. I've opened the transfer station numerous times. No, that's.
tell me when to turn.
Yeah, that's exactly it, that's. Yeah,
The amount of time Troy and I spend on putting up signs.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think we're getting funding from the state for some state police enforcement in the town of Wellington next year. So, yay us. Candy Mucci was looking out for us.
All right, well, that was the last of the small ones, really. Now we get into the bigger discussions and the bigger asks. Let's talk salt shed, which is CIP 22-6.
Okay, so
Year
Heather's gonna
two-
speak with this one, we'll both kind of go back
Year
and
two,
forth.
1.5 million, and this was the one, just as a refresher, that we were hoping there was it was $1 million last year.
So,
We reduced it,
Yeah.
understanding that we were waiting, we might have both over steep funds, but
Yeah.
that is not there.
so I guess currently, well, Mike Amato the other day said there is a steep grant for $1 million that the salt shed would fall under. The town would have to pay 20%.
I can go over it.
So, yeah, and you can explain it, because you were working with.
So, just for context, the current salt shed is dilapidated and needs serious structural repairs. That are just not cost effective for an age and weathered building. I mean, it's falling apart. And the capacity of that shed is also too small to hold a surplus of salt for the winter. Currently, it's about, depending on the frequency and the depth of snowfall, we need about 3 to 5 deliveries, 1 to 3 times per week, just to keep our supply available for what we need. Which we have a great supplier, they're fantastic, however, salt stores are dependent on the availability and deliver of the suppliers. So if we can't go those deliveries in because, you know, we have multiple storms this week, just regionally, there's gonna be a higher demand. While we're proactive about making sure we have what we need, back-to-back storms really deplete our supply quite quickly. And then we're dependent on the availability of those deliveries, because we can only hold, how many tons is it?
200 ton, we can only
It
hold,
seems like a lot,
but
but it's not for a storm. A larger shed would allow DPW to purchase a whole season's worth of salt. Which would come at some savings for salt pricing and delivery, because we would buy in a large volume at a certain, you know, at that price, and then be able to store it and have access to that.
What's the increase in scale from what you have now? Or what?
So. For the
So-
salt shed?
So yeah, so Carl right now has 100 by 100. I think we could downsize that to do like 50 by 100 or 50 by 75.
We're meeting with Carl next month.
Right now we
Yeah.
have, I don't even, it's probably 20 by 30 maybe.
Yeah.
It's small.
It's a.
So if you're reducing the size, would that cost go down?
Yeah, so he did a rough estimate real quick that once Mike told me about it, and he had it for about $800,000. On a smaller scale, and you know, there was still some numbers he didn't, there was paving, he had, the numbers were off a little bit, but it was a shorter increase. You know, not an increase, a decrease with it, that it wouldn't be as much up to $1 million.
Yeah, so the current design
Yeah.
that he has is 100 by 100,
Yeah.
but we're actually meeting with
Him on the 20th.
on the 20th to see if we can reconfigure it to a smaller 100 by 100 is really large. Actually, it's about the size of the whole complex.
Yeah,
But he had some concerns about the turning radius of the delivery trucks in the corner where the site plan is. So it would need to be bigger, but we're gonna talk to him about bringing it down, because we really don't need 100 by 100. But
The
we do-
800K.
yeah, would be the
would
maximum,
be, yeah,
hopefully the maximum.
was
Wouldn't be
based
more
on
than 1
100 by
million.
100.
Yes,
yes, yeah.
yeah. So we do have an opportunity. Last week, we were told if there is a steep grant for up to 100 million, for $1 million. Give us the 100 million.
Yeah.
That would cover 80% of the cost of the salt shed. We would be on the hook for 20%. So with that million, our final cost would not exceed 200,000. In fact, it would probably be less, because based on even that 825,000, that's 160. And then if we do go smaller on the shed, it would be even smaller.
Talk to me about
But-
steep grant timing.
Steep grant, the steep grant time is running out, however, that's one process, and the other one is. I'm not sure we've closed out the last steep grant, we've written all the contracts. But I'm not sure we've closed it out with the state yet, have we done, and that's the one for the old town hall?
He's not.
And until that one's closed out, we can't get the next one, so this may be a year out.
Right, so we have, I mean,
This
we were
one-
told last week, so we're like, oh, maybe this is an opportunity, but there is,
I think that
There is
the
a
more
deadline.
realistic time
Yeah.
frame is to push it out a year. Because of the timing with closing out the last steep grant and the timing where you have to apply for the next steep grant. And this year is gonna be very, very competitive for
tiny
steep
window,
because
yeah.
they just went from 500,000 to $1 million for a maximum on the steep grants.
So what's the likelihood if we applied, we would get it anyway? Like, is that, is it?
Depending on closing out the other one.
I was involved in a project where we're looking at another steep grant and there's just no knowing. Because the steep grant application process, I think closes out March, no, it's before then, it's very soon,
I know Mike said it's very soon. We have a very
Yeah.
small window.
like February 21st or something like that. But nobody knows how much is available for steep grants until the governor gave his budget this afternoon. So, you know, it's that 2-week window when people find out. And you're competing against every other town in the state for that money.
It's not impossible. I mean, we do get grants.
It's not impossible, we did get one in 2000.
So I'm assuming it'll be the same, we'll be in the same boat next year if we're pushing this. year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
But
new salt shed would also help us be compliant with our MS4 mandates
Yeah.
because we are.
the
Because of the what?
The MS4 mandates, so like the runoff from the salt storage, the new salt shed would help us be compliant in that because the drainage would be there for the runoff.
And what size, reduced size were you thinking of about?
50 by 100 or 50 by
Okay.
75.
And you said the cost attached to that would be a maximum of,
So for the 100 by 100, it looks like the maximum for us would be 200,000. It would be
a million.
a million max, but if Carl has the last estimate at like 825,000
Okay,
for the 100 by 100, but we're gonna try for smaller and that would certainly be less.
How does that work from our committing funds perspective from a steep point?
I
We need to
think-
commit. Well, Right, the match.
I'm gonna take a stab at this, so
That's
I'm not gonna testify yet. I believe we have to commit the entire amount, and then when we get the grant, then we pay just the 20% and get the reimbursement. But I'm not sure about that with steep, you may only have to pay the 20% and they just give you the other part.
Most grants, you have to show that you have the funds.
You have the full
To
fund.
be able to complete the project, even if it's being
Yeah.
subsidized.
That's why
Yeah,
so we need to
Yeah.
commit something to.
If we committed 800,000 year two, that would probably cover us right now. And that would be my suggestion, I know that you guys would like to see it this year, but I think. You've been waiting,
well, you have it marked in year 2 now.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go.
yeah.
Let me ask this other question, Pete, because you talked a lot about using steep grants as a way of paying for some of the road projects in phases.
Yeah,
And we can do one at a
you
time.
can only do one at a time and you've gotta close out the first one before you get the next one. So that would. Eliminate that, yes.
However, there are other grants available.
Yeah.
We currently we were awarded an urban action grant through DOT. That is what we're using for Village Hill. And those are a little different than this.
Right.
And
You don't have to come up with any.
yeah, it gives you more flexibility. To cover the cost of those. You still have to show that in your coffers, you could cover the full project, but those. Basically, we have an account, and running account, and I have to keep track of all the administrative part of the project, and then they cut checks from that account to fund.
Thinking out, Donna. So that's when this becomes a project, either grant funded through STEEP or some other grant process. That $1 million or 800,000 or whatever that total value becomes that we have to commit to. Is that cash on hand required? Meaning, is there a way, there's no way of alternatively funding the commitment to that? We'd have to bond or have cash on hand, right?
Yes, the local match, you have to be prepared to pay for it.
So this is.
Or you have to have the 200,000 on. And right there,
No, it sounds like we'd have to have the.
I don't know if we have to have the whole 800 or not from what Donna just said, but
I don't know.
yeah, we'd have to research that.
Okay,
I know before if you have a mild, say if you have a couple of years of, or maybe 1 year even of a mild winter or whatever, and you have a lot of product in the shed and everything, is there any, like, damage to that? Does it,
Nope, it
does
stays
it
there as
like?
long as it's covered. Yep,
Okay,
no, cause we fill our salt shed before and it sits there all summer long and, yep, use it out. Yep.
I know that the project first started, was at the 2000 grant, where, because we ran into trouble, procuring salt in a really heavy year. And we didn't, and no one else had it either, because everybody was caught unawares. Now, that's like a severe situation, but this country's seeing a lot of severe situations and weather related and things like that, so.
I think what happened that year though is we only had one salt company and now we have two competing, so
Is that
we're doing
helped a little
much
bit?
better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the people that we get it from are pretty much.
Was it Morton and Diamond or something?
Morton and Eastern.
Eastern.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a hard thing, like say like, it's gonna snow tomorrow, our salt shed's full. And then they use some salt, then we're getting some more snow on Saturday into Sunday.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna plan deliveries to get that, and if they're shipping everywhere else. We can bring you a load or two loads, and then that's where if you had an abundance of it, where you're not. It's not that stressful trying to get salt in there now. Yep.
And there's a definite cost incentive.
Yeah.
This is a tent type structure.
Yeah, this would be a tent, yeah, they're like 8 foot walls and then a tent, like a canvas type, over, like,
What's the lifespan of those?
they say 8 to 10 years. The replacement of the canvas, yeah.
Infrastructure, yeah, so that's not a $800,000.
Yeah,
No,
no,
no.
yeah.
10 years, that's-
The cost of this project, a lot of it is
It's
the
moving
site,
fill
site prep. Because there's a lot of, movement of,
Material.
it's a sloped area, it needs to be flattened out and material brought out, so that is a huge, actually, it's
That's most of
most of the cost, is the site prep.
And
After
put
that.
things in perspective, size of that you're proposing, how's that compared to the DOT garage in Wellington, the square footage?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know how big Wellington's is. I mean, theirs is,
It's.
that's a big garage, they put some salt in there, yeah. Yeah,
His Talon's 100 by 100.
is Talon on.
Talon, DPW.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, 100 books.
Yeah. We're sitting down with Carl in a few weeks and to have him, to discuss having him reconfigure it to a smaller shed. But we have to look at where it is on the site, the turning radius for these trucks to come and go, make sure that that's not an issue.
I'll be the one to ask the jerky question. Can you guys do any of the site prep?
No,
The volume
yeah,
and the
it's too
machinery
much,
needed for
yeah,
this.
no.
I mean, we've done.
I mean, some of the
clearing.
tree clearing
The
we've
tree
done, we're
clearing.
working in the back, but I mean, there's still more that could be done, but not the excavation part now. No,
A lot of money for a salt shed.
It's a lot of money for everything.
yeah.
We're talking about the salt shed right now, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years, how many times have you run out of salt?
I've never ran out of salt in my time to do it, but it's still one of those things. It could happen this week. We don't get any salt Friday. There's no salt for Saturday.
But it's not just
Just,
running out, the building is falling. apart.
yeah, there's,
So at some point, that's gonna be irreparable, and now the salt is not covered.
And you're a regulatory compliance.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah, I mean,
now,
the
but-
current shed is not compliance for this floor at all either, so, yeah.
So the conversation you'll have with the architect is the smallest footprint you need to reasonably get you through winter.
Yeah.
And would you resubmit that, or is that something that we'll talk about next year, or what, I don't know.
if we can come up with the correct, accurate figures without trying to just punch numbers in for what it is now. Because the site is gonna be different, they're not hauling so much material or, because I believe there's original plan, it was like 15,000 yards of material that needed to be moved. So that was where the cost was. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot given people's questions.
Yeah, so between now and next year's grant application cycle,
We should have an accurate number.
you guys will be.
Yeah.
We'll type that
The
up,
goal
yeah.
is to get to a point where you're ready to pursue that for year two. But then there's also the conversation as to what projects are being, are going for Steve. Because there's the next three on the list are also potential Steve candidates. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think that was a good point.
There's a lot of field, was there an alternative spot you could do it so you don't have so much field to bring in?
The way,
Because
So
where
we're
it
taking
is
Phil,
now,
taking Phil out.
yeah, it was taking Phil out, so it's in the back,
Yeah.
like, if you go towards where the back of the dog pound, it was in that whole hill.
Okay.
Yeah,
We don't have a
So it's
culvert
removed.
still there,
it was
yeah,
removed over
yeah.
Phil, yeah.
We have plenty to
right?
add.
Right,
How much did you say?
And he said, like, I wanna say 15,000 yards, you have to level it off and, yeah.
So if your truck's in, can
Yeah, cause it was big, he made it enough where the truck can like turn around, you know, if we can try to shorten it up, then the site work isn't so much. You know, so.
But either way, the site prep will be the most expensive, just from, not just moving, but also containing wall for that hill.
Right, so $1 million is the high end. And it's not moving, we'll have better direction next year, but it doesn't sound like this is a year one request that is viable. Okay. That's all on salt shed. All right, how do you want to talk about these last? We got Village Hill, Liska. And Schofield.
Why don't we do Liska Bridge first?
All right, let's do Liska.
So that's,
CIP 53, guys. Oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be back.
What is it?
CIP 53.
53?
Yep.
Oh, okay, it's right in the back. Well, second one.
so next year,
Is this? Which one of these is eligible, refresh me again, for the state grant?
it was, so Schofield and Village Hill.
So it's either or.
Yeah, well, there's both, we can do both, so. If you wanna talk about Village Hill before we do Liska, Village Hill, we're actually gonna, hopefully. If everything goes well, we'll start construction in the spring of next year. With the grant. So, cause that project is basically almost shovel ready. There has to be a survey done and,
This is
Fine.
Village Hill.
Village
Yes.
Hill.
So
Yeah.
That's CIP 54, everybody.
Yeah.
We might jump around a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to go to Phil?
Yeah, we'll do Village Hill.
All right,
So CIP 54 is just a request for engineering.
right, do you want me to?
Yeah, they're in, yeah,
So, we were awarded an urban action grant, last.
'Cause we're
this
urban.
past
Just
spring.
thinking.
Well, hey, it's money for infrastructure, that's all you need to know.
It's the same, this is the urban action grant, is at 2 million.
Is that
Yeah,
2
it's
million?
at $2 million. So, context for that is we have a $2 million grant. There's no, requirement for us to like do a certain percent. However, the way the grant is structured for bidding and permitting and things, it's easier for us to do the phase one, engineering part, pay for that. If we use the grant for that, there's a lot of hoops and requirements to get through to do that. So, and that would slow things down, but also probably increase the cost of the project.
and the gentleman from the state basically recommended that the town funds the engineering cost and use the money for
For
construction.
construction, which is the bulk of the expense anyway. So, with that said, most of the engineering design is ready. It needs to be finalized. We need surveys to shoot the site in and inspections and permitting. The permitting's already started, the environmental review. We did meet with Carl a month or so ago about how much do we need to finish that phase one engineering?
Carl is
And-
doing this.
Yes.
Yeah, so, cause we have to hire a survey, to come in and shoot that in and and the inspections to get it ready. Phase two would be the construction phase, and that's what we can use this funding for. The grant for. And, I'm working with DOT and their consulting engineering firm for the project, and, we do have it right now, spring of 2026 to start construction.
Okay, and that would be grant funded, so.
That would be grant funded, and the 2 million would more than cover that. The catch to all of this is the $2 million grant would not cover, we would get Village Hill complete, we would get that done off the books. Drainage would be great and paving, but it would not fund all of Schofield. So we have to maybe use that grant for the phase one, and that one requires other permitting because there is encroachment onto a state road, so it's a bigger beast. So we thought Village Hill would be the easiest to cover, we would be able to cover the funds for all of that construction, and it's an easier project to get done. Schofield would be more funding.
How far Village Hill would that bring the drainage?
So it's gonna go up to Pinecrest, from the bridge, to Pinecrest, right there, 16 catch basins.
Are there other phases planned or hoped, more specifically by Grange Drive and then further, by the farm?
Yeah, Carl did have, that grant would not take it, it's just this piece of right there, yep, that's it. For the catch basins.
Because that would be covered in the grant, but I guess what we're trying to get at is.
There's nothing, to finish that whole-
grant funding, but
yeah.
we, is the plan that was proposed, but isn't that a part of that beta's,
Yeah, to do the upper part of Village Hill,
Yeah.
or by the field, yeah, Carl has a set of plans there to put in some dry wells or to run some catch basins and then run through that gentleman's yard there. To take the water away from it, but that's nowhere near any of this,
yeah, it's in addition,
in addition.
outside of what we
Yeah.
think we can cover
Yeah.
with that, but we don't have any firm
If,
understanding of what that potential total cost. We're tailoring this project, not completing all Village Hill.
no, right, exactly, this is just for the catch basins.
What we have in Village Hill? Oh, these numbers have all changed in the plan.
This project has been on the books for 30 years, so if the numbers haven't changed, it would be more than shocking.
I just have probably splitting hairs, but in your project request, I would just. I don't know what are these only to inform us about what projects are planned? Like, does this go somewhere, these requests that people done
This is just our request tracking,
record, okay,
our record, submitted requests, they're renewed annually. I'm just getting used to how we're doing this on the portal, the OpenGov portal. I think there's probably a way we can work on this in the off season to.
I'm only making a comment about it because this is specifically for the design and engineering, and unless I missed something, the cost of the project is covered by the grant. The only thing that we have to cover as a town is the engineering. So this isn't necessarily for the project. This is for the engineering for the project.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then, yep.
It's already started, it needs to be completed, so that phase is done and we can move to construction phase.
Do we know how much has been spent on it so far?
I don't, because that's before my time,
Yeah.
digging out.
It was even before my time,
Yeah.
that was.
It's been on,
Before my
it's
time.
been on it's been needed since the 90s. And the drainage with the current weather, with the weather patterns that have increased the volume and intensity of our rain events, drainage is an issue. People are always calling the waters running into the yards, erosion, and becomes an icing issue in these mild winters. So it needs to be done, but it's been there since the 90s. Like I said, it precedes my time.
I 100% agree. I just mean like. What I thought you meant was that some of the design, engineering and survey have been done.
Yes.
So Carl has a set of plans, but it has to be like, he's drawing it up and now it has to be surveyed and put on to go out to bid, to have it done. to
Yeah, so-
Finalize the plans.
So that will cost $50,000, even though it's already started.
Well,
Roughly with what, yeah,
Roughly.
roughly.
roughly,
Yes.
it shouldn't be more. He asserts it shouldn't be more, but you need the survey team to come in and shoot the site plans. And make, get those.
The elevation.
The elevations and coordinates and everything in, so that it's solid, because right now you just have a plan. And it's like
Yeah.
sitting above space, you need the survey to anchor it. And then inspections of those plans and those things cost, and then that would be it, then that would be ready, once all of that is approved and finalized and permits, then the construction phase.
So that's in the 50,000, the site plan and the survey,
Yes.
Surveys and
So
inspections.
this isn't Carl's time essentially, or is it Carl's engineering as well? I guess it's.
Yeah, that's Carl's.
It
that's
is Carl as well, so this is outside of the your budget
The
line,
budget line.
Yeah,
is what I mean,
yes.
because of the scope of the
This
project. Okay,
I mean, it's not just his cost, it's the cost of the
Yeah.
survey that has to be,
believe there was a discussion a few years ago when it was, time to purchase an excavator that the town crew was gonna try to do some of this.
Do some of it, it just,
Has that ship sailed?
yeah, it's, it's too much to do. It's, there's too many things with vacation time, the weather is,
well, it's not even just vacation time, it's manpower.
it's manpower, yeah.
So if Carl's the town engineer, how do we decide what is in his salary versus what's in what he
It's
charges?
part-time. I don't know, that was,
I think it's based on the project, what
Yeah.
needs to be done, yeah. I mean, there's not much in that line item. I believe there's like, I wanna say like $7,500 in the engineering cost.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not, like I said, Carl does.
Yeah.
I would say a favor for the town, if you were to have a different engineer come in.
So things like the
the
septic over at the
Yeah.
old town hall would
Yeah.
come out of my line item.
Yeah.
A project like this would come out of the project.
So would we send this out to bid? I keep asking about that, but I don't know if I'm using. the right
Sending
words.
out
The
the engineering
construction.
bid or the
No.
construction?
The engineering that we're talking about right now, the $50,000.
no, the engineering is, it would be the surveying.
The survey.
Whatever the thing is that we're talking about, the $50,000.
I believe that would go out to.
Yeah, go out to
Yeah.
the surveying, we go out to the,
So we don't know if it's $50,000.
No, those are Carl's numbers, that's what he had.
And
Estimated
As an
that it
estimated
would
part of
cost,
it, yes,
yeah,
yes.
to finish this part of this phase one.
So. How do we, I don't know how we talk about this if we don't have numbers, like if
It's not
Do we
to
just
exceed
assume-
50,000, I mean, Carl, you're trying to, you can't go out to bid with somebody and be like, yeah, never mind, thanks, we just need numbers. I mean,
Carl's already done
It's-
the plan,
Yeah.
so it's set at this point, so we're committed to him doing this either way, Jen, because I think he's engineer of record for the project that's already involved.
so what didn't go out to bid?
The
Not
survey.
the engineering portion of it, but the
survey.
survey would be.
I don't understand, so this is for design, engineering and survey, so what is it, what is?
We just don't have a break, you don't have a breakout.
breakout of what the
What
survey
is
would
what.
cost and what it was. He just said, Carl said 50,000 to get the project completed, surveyed and done.
So
The
it's an-
design
It's an
is,
engineer's estimate of cost of the work.
right, the design is done.
It's complete.
The engineering is part of that, so that's what it's like a bulk terms for what a phase one project entails. Some of that's already done, so it won't be a part of that 50,000. Frankly, Carl said it would probably be a lot less, but he put that in there because we don't know when we go out to bid how much.
It would cost for
So in past practice, I'm not crazy about that term, but we go and ask for quotes and estimates from companies before we put out to bid, and we get these estimates, and then we never have funds to then go actually procure, so they change, it's on the books and then it changes, so then we need to go back again and get more recent estimates. So that's the best estimate that Carl gave us, the worst case scenario.
In an ideal world, we're getting this at the bid, then you're coming before or some, either us or Board of Finance with quotes in hand and a full recommended project. you know.
Exactly.
But it's not
But
always.
that's not the way,
forecasting.
we have to come up with a budget and then figure out if we can do it within that budget.
So when we meet with Carl in February. Can we ask him we send out bids?
Well, no,
Well, as soon as we figure out whether it gets through CIP. If
Yeah.
it gets through CIP, then we'll let Carl know to put it out.
Or at least get estimates, because
Yeah.
we can't give you concrete numbers until we can get those.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask a simple question, be putting something like that grant, urban renewal grant. Pushing out, getting something ready, are there any duration limits on that?
there are duration limits, but they're, oops. We've got a lot of space, because
Okay,
I was panicked on that, getting these engineering studies done too. And I know we're spending a lot of time on this, and we got 3 of these to go.
Yeah,
And I'm looking at them holistically rather than one at a time. So we've got $2 million, we've got a project, it's gonna cost the construction on, Village Hill is. I don't remember what it was, 750,000 or
So,
something.
yeah, it was something like 750.
Yeah.
750,000, but to spend that money, first we have to put up the 50,000 to get the engineering done, so. If it costs us $50,000, even if that's a high number, to get $750,000 to get a project done in a reasonable amount of time, so we don't lose the 750,000, it's probably worth it, just like. That's why we put that big shock absorber in for the schools, because you have to have it up front. And so I think that it would be
so that,
behoove us to just,
so Village Hill is first phase, or phase 2, and Village Hill is not 2 million.
no,
No,
it's
no.
750,000 to get it
Yeah.
done.
Sorry, that was, I don't. maybe
So
it's just
when
me, but I don't think that's clear.
when that grant. When our proposal was presented to the House Bonding Committee to get that grant, Village Hill and Schofield were lumped together.
Lumped together.
However, the reality is
That's why I'm looking
Schofield's
at
a
it
lot
holistically.
more, yeah.
Well, and
go
that's what I'm
ahead,
trying to get, at. So
would
there's
you
a
finish that
balance,
sentence?
yeah,
Schofield's a lot more.
Oh, Schofield's a much bigger scope project at a cost and also the logistics involved. But Village Hill is our low hanging fruit. We could completely do that
We could do
project
something.
with that money. As far as limits for how long, we keep pushing things out. I'll be honest, I don't know how long they'll let us
Keep pushing things
keep
out.
pushing out. And then it's gonna, any other grants, I just see us not being on the list for being
Yeah, we're
awarded
not on the
grants.
list for other grants.
the SAB, what I'm trying to get at is, if we
Yeah.
get 750,000 of a $2 million.
Right, so
Grant, so
that
there's
leaves us
balance.
$1.25 million for
Something else.
Which is for
Schofield.
Schofield.
No,
Right.
not for something else.
No, for
Yeah,
Schofield.
yeah.
And-
That is,
yes.
those are the restrictions, whatever we bonded with the House Committee, it has to be used on those
Yes.
projects.
All right,
Now, the only,
How we use
the
it.
total cost for Schofield was
Was like,
big,
it was like,
like $8 million.
3.5,
yeah, like 3.5
so you
million.
guys requested 3.5,
Yeah.
500 of that
For
is
Schofield.
planning and engineering. 3 million of that is projects for Schofield.
Right, so what we'd like to do, the reason our engineering costs may be a little higher on Schofield is that, we want it engineered in phases. So if we have $1.25 million, but we have a $3.5 million project, if we can phase it in 3 phases and we can get a whole phase done, then we can get the money,
You wanna-
and then we can ask for another
We want to
grant.
engineer the whole thing at once, for a
Right,
phase project.
right.
Just- Okay,
Yes, correct.
and
And that one's gonna be an expensive engineering project because we're involving state roads, state waterways, large elevation changes. It's gonna be a logistical nightmare with DEP, DOT, et cetera, so.
there's just a lot more layers that Village Hill is again, the low hanging fruit, we've got.
Yeah.
Snowball this effort.
but that 3 million is best guess at first phase of construction for Schofield. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at is you don't have the engineering on it yet, so.
So Beta did a scope of work,
Okay.
with it, did like I don't wanna say like a preliminary plan, even nothing was set in stone, how many catch basins, what it would be. And they estimated the cost would be to complete the project was like $3.5 million. start to finish.
When was that? That was before.
That was like 2 years ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's, yeah.
I don't remember, because I know we started looking at this in the nineties.
now.
It wasn't quite $3 million in the nineties.
Well, I know in the nineties, Village Hill was about 350,000.
Yeah.
If it was done then.
So we're only at 10 times as much, order of magnitude. Yeah.
All right, so. Sorry, if somebody else can pop the light bulb.
No, one of the things I wanted to ask about, well, so this is the first time I've heard of a pretty clearly articulated sequence in these projects, which kind of thrills me because I've been on CIP a long time, and these have been so big and amorphous and confusing that they've never advanced. So I really love hearing this detail about the order of things that you're thinking about. I feel like I remember something about when we were buying different equipment that you guys were gonna have help with catch basin.
It was, it was one of those, but like I said, with our staff of 4 trying to get everything done, it's almost too large of a scale. We were gonna break it down into pieces and then it's.
It wouldn't work that way, yeah.
That equipment's being used for other catch basins, so it's
Yeah.
still doing catch basins.
Elsewhere in town.
And else, we got lots of
There's
catch
more than
basins.
3 roads, right?
There's more than 3 catch basins too, unfortunately.
That would then be coordination with your work with other.
Thanks.
Other stuff.
acquisition Trades, which causes some, potential.
It's the kind of project you really need. The project manager to oversee and contract everything out.
There is one question I had though about the sequence, and that is, if you've got, roughly you're talking, Village Hill, hopefully in year 1, right? And then Liska in year 2 and Schofield in year 2.
So Liska, we were just on, now, there was nothing said in there. We were talking to Carl about just engineering Liska to get that out, and then maybe doing something the following year, trying to get a grant to fund the rest of that project.
This has got some, that's just the big bridge culvert thing.
Yes.
But if it washes out, then everybody that lives on that road is trapped.
No, I understand what the deal is with Liska.
Yeah, there was a couple different things
Oh, I
Carl
do.
talked about, trying to
Oh, okay.
move the bridge down or the culverts down to keep that open and then remove that, and the road would be moved. There was some things that.
Because it has been happening again, with the intensity and increased volume of these rain events, that road has needed repairs multiple times, it's washed out.
We've already done.
So it's a public safety hazard.
So that is a separate grant. That's
Yeah.
separate- that's
Yeah.
another grant. I guess that's my big question is if we're trying to engineer and given that Village Hill is only taking a part of that grant and there are potential time limitations to it, why is Schofield engineering a year 2 engineering request?
Well, we're focused on Village Hill right now, so
Right,
then do the next one.
yeah,
Yeah,
Do one project and move to the next, and that's. Even the way the gentleman from the state said that. He
Yeah.
Recommended
Do
doing
one.
one project, because they were lumped together, do
Okay.
one and then move to the next.
I don't think any limitations on the grant are going to fall in, are going to restrict us if we at least have this one going. We show, okay, yes, we got this done, and then finish that and let's move on to the next. And use up the rest of the monies for that. But sitting and doing nothing, that's the problem.
well, and that's,
I don't mean you guys, but I'm just saying,
I know.
the
but-
1990s, we're not moving forward with these projects, so they're sitting there, so we need to prove that we can do this.
Yeah, I only asked because I guess I'm wondering. Does it make sense to be ready to go so that you can then, yes, do one project at a time, but be prepared with the engineering to capitalize on the grant as soon as we need to? I guess that's the big question.
Get the phase 1.
Yeah.
For Village Hill complete. We can certainly start working on phase 1 for Schofield while Village Hill phase 2 construction is going.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. I just.
Okay.
We need to get our. Feet wet in this first phase and get the stuff, because we haven't done a grant like this before.
I'm
Yeah.
just asking.
Yeah, no, there's no-
We don't lose 1.25.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was more of a logistics decision that let's handle this one and then we can start piggybacking, but this is new for all of us, so I wanna make sure that. It's in our wheelhouse and that we're proficient and in getting this done.
So. Village Hill is the Carl project. What is Schofield, and if not, is Schofield,
It's Schofield, it would have to go out to bid, like, yes, it's Carl, he
That
said,
is,
it would have to go out to bid for engineering costs.
Yeah. um. So that will take time.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, so I guess that's what I'm trying to game out a little bit, the timing, making sure that. You know, we wanna, if Schofield is a year 3 start. For construction.
Yeah.
You know, have you guys worked that master schedule back to kind of,
It all it depends on what funding you have to, I mean, if
No,
that's, you know
well,
what I mean, if
and-
you wanna
and
give us
that's
the
the
money now, then we'll start working on that project as it goes.
that's the consideration, you know,
Yeah.
that's all I'm trying to kind of flesh out
Yeah.
a little bit. I'm not advocating one way or the other, I'm just trying to understand what the parameters are and
Yeah.
how quickly. This needs to become shovel ready to. Be within our 5-year plan, you know, these things take time, so.
I have a question about Lisbon too, then I guess it's, the way that it's written. And the way that's been described is a public safety hazard, whatever, public safety concern. So where does that's a large, giant, huge amount of money. So I'm just wondering where that fits in, because we've only talked about Village and Schofield so far.
Well, we're starting to try to get one project and then go to the next one to do it, you know, cause that one's gonna have to be a grant, the town's, I mean, there's a huge funding thing that the town is gonna. So we're hoping to try to get Village and Schofield going, and then to see if we can start applying for grants to do this.
So. So so we are on. So this request is for engineering for Liska.
Yep.
The request I see in front of me is 2.5 million. Am I misreading that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that'd be like the whole thing, right, so in
Yeah,
this, it was 26,
The costs are broken
27
down.
was planning and
On
engineering,
the second page.
and then the
Second page.
27, 28 was the construction.
300,000.
On the bottom of the CIP,
300,000 for the plan and engineering inspection,
Yeah.
and then the construction is 2 million.
So
They were hoping to get a grant.
Right, it's 2 million, right?
Yeah, problem.
You gotta have the economy. I'm just reading.
Yeah, so I guess there is a question for there's a couple of questions on this guy, because you're showing project cost is 2 million, engineering at 300,000, but the total request is 2.5.
Perhaps it should go in as.
It could be just a typo,
Yeah.
yeah.
So are we thinking it's 2.3? Or 2.5?
2.3, yeah.
I'm wondering, Jim, if we should have this as 2 separate projects, the engineering and the construction.
I think we're gonna have to track it that
What-
way.
it makes more sense to do that because we don't know of the funding yet.
Right,
that's completely fair, we just need to.
Yeah.
Have something, like, I think planning for a phase 1.
Yeah.
Then we would know what phase 2 would cost and look like.
So, speaking of costs, I'm gonna ask this question now, because the way we had this, and this is changing, obviously. Our current plan has Liska at $900,000 instead of 2 million.
That's probably the
And Rich
original.
Culverts at 535.
What's the date on that?
It's probably been in there for as long as the plan.
Troy, were you involved in the catch?
So this Rich
Road
Culvert's
bridge?
535,000.
Nope.
And Liska.
thank God.
Yeah.
So when Ketch's Road was done, the town had 2 choices. They could go with a federal grant. You had to go to federal standards, which was a very big number, and then the town's portion was, 10, 20, whatever that percentage was. Or you could put a locally engineered bridge in there that was suitable and not involve the federal government. And the town cost was less by building your own bridge instead of building it to federal standards. And that's what the town ended up doing.
That was Polster, right?
No, catch this, the road to campground.
Alright. I thought we did that with the Polster Bridge too.
Polster is just the undermining,
Oh, yeah. Got it.
bridge. And I'm old enough to give history. The bridge upstream from Lisco Road on Moose Meadow by Burma, that was done with the grant or the bond that the town did in 1991, because that was undersized. Texas Road downstream was too small, that was getting washed over, and they did that. Lisco Road's in the middle and it was never redone to handle the water capacity that's coming from above and ultimately going down below.
Well, what was the work that was done in 20 years ago?
For Vista?
Right,
Like,
when it was washed out? Or? Okay, it just says it was flooded during an event in 2005, maybe nothing was done
I
there.
think it was over top of water, but it didn't get destroyed and washed downstream.
In recent events, it has been washed out.
Yeah,
where
we
they've had
fixed
to
a
go in
piece of
and
it, paved
repair.
a portion of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Washed out.
May I ask where the quote came from for the engineering?
Carl.
Okay. I gotta meet this guy.
So, for Lisco,
good luck.
that's it, so,
I had to come for selectmen to meet it.
yeah, is that related to the Lisco?
Yes.
But this is gonna be bid, so Carl just took best guess at.
Well, so when
what
you're looking at
soliciting.
these engineering costs for phase one, it's not that he's getting $300,000 for his design part, but $300,000 encompassing surveying and inspections and things
Yeah,
like that,
I
yeah.
thought we said this was gonna be bid out and Carl wasn't, this is,
No, that's for Schofield.
Schofield.
that's for Schofield, but Liska is a problem.
Carl has plans for everything. They just were never finished because it just went from one thing to another to another. So Carl has like plans that he's physically drawn. But
Okay,
nothing's ever been. It's either been shot down or oh, push it out, and it's never been completed. So that's where. You know,
I
it needs to
didn't realize he
be
had
complete,
work done on
yes.
Liska already.
Yeah.
So that's survey, that's
It's,
Yeah.
all trades
Yeah.
related to a complete engineer. You get to shovel, and
Right.
that's it's. How does he have, so all of those individual trades are bid out through you guys or exactly?
Yeah, we like, we
It would
do
be
it separate.
separate,
We,
yeah.
yeah, we put it out to the town does.
All right,
Is there a specific FEMA grant you've identified that would pay for this?
Not yet, I haven't looked at any grants yet, I'm trying to focus on the ones we have right now, but, I mean, there are grants out there, but we need to commit to purchasing a
I
project.
would recommend that you point yourself towards the hazard mitigation grant. It's dependent on disaster funding where disaster hits, so to speak. They take 10% aside, they go, oh, the impacts that you had, 10% of this, and some of these are big numbers, $50 million, $100 million. They put 10% aside to fix projects that will lessen the impacts of this happening in the future. It doesn't pay for maintenance, so example being, if you had a corrugated metal culvert and it's rotted out, they do not pay for that. However, if you do have an undersized culvert that's not capable of flowing the water you have, then hazard mitigation may kick in. But it's dependent on how many disasters happen to actually create the funding for that, so
Sure.
it may come and go, but that may be an appropriate one to look at.
We do keep track, I have, of when these events happen and the extent of the damage. And there are lots of grants for mitigation, especially, for these types of changes that are happening, weather patterns and the effect on the infrastructure. I can look into those, but
So CROG, we're, part of getting the grant is each town has to have a hazard mitigation plan. And this last go around, CROG took care of that plan, so you may wanna find the plan from CROG, and I believe Liska Road may be on it already. The idea is to, in terms of planning, to identify locations around town, not necessarily town only, but state roads as well. what needs fixing that would meet the criteria, hasn't been engaged.
I got two last questions on these roads at the beginning. Just the Village Hill drainage phase one, you have a $500,000 donation of other sources capture.
No,
Is
I
it-
think that was because last year we tried for a trip grant and then it
Yeah,
got,
now get denied.
it got.
So that's,
Yeah.
that is just all grant. And then for these major projects like Schofield or Village Hill or installation, who does the oversight? Like, is that all on your office?
So they'll have, obviously they're the contractor that's oversighting the project, but yes, our office is the one that's doing the administrative part, day-to-day operations, permitting. Yeah, that's a part, I have an entire book from DOT on the UAG guidelines. And there is, within those guidelines, so there should be someone from the town appointed to oversee this project, because I have to turn in, even now, even though we don't even have a state project number, I have to do quarterly reports of our progress using on this grant, which right now is just early phase permitting.
Well, that, I guess that was the question, as these start to become major projects. The town can have somebody appointed as an OPM, it doesn't necessarily need to be staff. And I get,
Yeah.
wondering is the capacity, well, you know. We could solicit for an OPM. I'm not saying we should, I'm just wondering, have you considered the capacity to oversee a project during construction or multiple?
I don't know.
And how does that factor into your workforce and day to day?
Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
So-
Go ahead, yeah.
That has been a consideration. Especially when we were awarded this grant, I am hired on 15 hours a week. And when the grant came through, with my regular daily duties, the 15 hours was not enough to even address the administration of the grant.
Sure.
So I was, given 4 more hours. But going forward to oversee even just the administration and the communication between DOT and projects, that would not be enough.
So it becomes a budgetary.
That's just, I'm being
No,
honest, I'm actually keeping track of my metrics of my day-to-day duties and what projects I can address, and even with that, I barely touch.
I get it, I'm asking because I know I'm involved.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like, if you're looking at OPM, yeah, it's,
The plan is to.
Give them more.
Internally, but like,
Yes.
yes, we're doing it, yeah, but it's internal,
Yes.
yeah,
the available labor. Or increased,
there is available labor, it's just,
Yeah.
it's not available.
Yeah.
Currently.
understood. Okay. That's a fun question for board finance.
So,
Yeah. So,
I just
No, I
wanted to
know.
make sure that there wasn't gonna be like the management of this.
yeah, no,
Well,
that is a
in
huge
any
component,
way.
you need, it's not just like, here's money, no, there is a management and oversight component that is very involved.
And also
So,
that
yeah.
it wasn't part of these engineering design.
Exactly, yeah,
Capturing
yeah, no, that's
separate costs.
a requirement that the state says the municipality has to provide.
so are we still comfortable with the year timing? I just want to be sure we, with Schofield and Liska and 2 and Village Hill and 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think phasing one project at a time is a good idea.
I think so too.
No, I do too.
I'm not. I am potentially concerned about how long these things take and the engineering design of it.
It'd take at least 30 years to permanently.
Yeah, well, But that's, like, that's what I'm trying to, like, there is we know how slowly things get through the process here. Develop.
30
No, I
years,
know,
we didn't have
this is-
someone committed to
That's true.
working on the project.
Feels like a momentum though, that's why I'm
Yeah,
pushing for, like,
Agreed.
maybe it's not easily attainable, but,
no, but the
I
momentum,
like the
I was hoping,
planning notion
Yeah.
of it.
I was hoping that if we, again, Village Hill was the simplest and the most reachable as far as cost. And that if we can get that complete and create a nice snowball effect towards other projects and other grants, we need to prove that we're gonna use this money if we want to get more money.
And it does feed the largest residential neighborhood in town, isn't it? I mean, most,
Mill Chill and
most population there concentrated.
highly trafficked.
What?
Everybody trick or treat?
Yeah,
Well, no, I know, I
it's
know.
also highly trafficked between Stafford. and-
I'm just saying with a question mark because I don't really know the numbers, but I just.
Cause you're on
wondered.
this one.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense to me.
Alright, that was the last. Public Works request. Before we move on to Pete's one request to talk about the animal control facility, does anybody have any final questions for Troy? And Heather?
It was nice to meet you, thank you.
That's good to meet you in person. All right, thank you guys, that was all very helpful and thank you for your efforts to try and do this stuff. Make these real.
And thanks, Heather, because you really filled in a lot of blanks there.
All right,
So I'm asking for you to stay here during this one too. Animal control facility.
Okay.
Let's move on to animal control facility.
but you're here as just a resident.
I could just be a resident for this, I have some
Okay,
ideas.
there you go. So we currently have an animal control facility that's a hazardous waste site and unusable. We started looking into it for regionalization, so we wouldn't have to rebuild this thing. It turned into quite the project, and it turns out that we split the project in two. So we're regionalizing workforce and regionalizing real estate, property, buildings, that kind of thing. And so one of the things that we had done was we brought in the engineers from CROG and I can't remember the other company. That are paid for by the regional council of governments. That do the engineering for at state cost. So they came in and that's where we get this $375,000 figure to bring our animal control facility up to the new standards that are being demanded by the Department of Agriculture. Our facility is nowhere near close for current standards, much less the new standards. I believe this is in year 3. Or
You have it in
No,
your.
you're one, Pete.
I think what we need to do is move it out to at least year 2. Because as of the last conference we had, which was yesterday, we're working with the towns of Stafford, Tolland, Ashford, us, and maybe Mansfield. And there was, like with all these things, we've run down a number of blind alleys to get to here. And so the way it looks now is that the town of Stafford may just build their facility on their own, build it large enough to be regional, and then we can get in on that. But if that whole project falls through, which I'm sincerely hoping it doesn't, then we will need to build a new facility. So that's why it's in the plan, and I would say definitely move this to year 2 at least. We don't want to get started on a building we don't need, particularly at this cost. The one issue we do have is we're gonna have to get some construction done up there because the way it was engineered, all the water for public works is pumped into the animal control facility first, where it's pressurized and then run down to public works. So we have to keep that building warm so that the water doesn't freeze up. So that the public works people can continue to flush their toilets, etc. So we'd like to fix that. So we can drain the water out of the building at least if we're gonna mothball it.
The elevation, like, is it?
No, it was just engineered that way.
They ran it in, there's a pump, like a tank inside, and then it goes from inside the building to us.
So we're not like pumping vertically.
No.
No, I think it's because the animal control facility is halfway between the well and the public works and.
It made sense.
It made sense to somebody at some time. But, all I wanna do for the animal control facility at this time is to reduce the amount of, animal waste in there. And make it so that we can have a environment that you can walk through at least. And get it so that the water will run to public works and we can start to mothball that facility until we figure out what's going on. We are way too far up in the air for this to be a year one project.
So where do we stand on that interim need?
Right now, we're. As far as getting the mouse droppings and the water fixed, we just started talking about that this morning. So
I mean,
I don't know where we are.
the mouse control is pretty under.
the mouse,
We-
we've killed off the
Yeah.
mice, but what they left behind is still there. So I'm gonna,
Ceilings need to come down,
these guys are gonna
insulation.
look up in the ceiling and see what we can get rid of.
Yeah.
What we can do internally, as far as getting the water heat out and. That shouldn't be too bad, I think we can get it under normal maintenance, so, but. What we have to do is we have to let this other project play through and it's. Once you start including 5 towns, it starts getting complicated in a hurry.
Where do the dogs go now?
All of our dogs right now go to Stafford. If this all works out, they'll be going to Tolland. One of the major advantages of regionalizing is that the state will pay for 3/4 of all the personnel costs for the first year, half the second year, and a quarter the third year, and then it'll come back to us. But regionalizing will eventually save us on personnel and equipment.
And it makes sense to
Nothing else.
consolidate it because individually, I don't have the exact metrics, it just this is anecdotal, but we don't have volume to like staff it individually
No.
and in the past, we split it where Stafford or Tolland
Mm-hmm.
also does our town and it's a logistical nightmare and it's not fair for the care of the animals that has to wait for someone to come from another facility. So if everything's under one roof, utilities, staff, everything, it makes sense to regionalize.
Also, the animals that are staying there, you don't have to have somebody running from town to town to take care of those animals, they can take care of them all at once.
Right.
Are we still being considered a potential site?
We were originally not, and then we were, and now we're not.
Okay.
Because that way we don't have to pay the 20% for the steep grant. I'm trying to. Don't let Tom know that we're trying to sleaze off of them, all right?
Well,
No, I just,
But
No,
there's
there-
convenience for it to be in
right.
our town, we're kind of.
there is convenience for
Well
it to be in our
positioned
town,
for both of them.
but. Oh, yeah, all that
Yeah,
is-
we're central.
we're very central, and that's why we were being considered, and we have space to expand out to. Whereas I think Collins running into wetlands considerations and all kinds of other stuff,
Mhm.
so that's still a little up in the air.
Okay.
They have a grant writer that's doing all the work though, so and then their town council is very willing to pay the 20% for the steep grant, so. It's also very
Okay.
complicated to get multiple steep grants for the same project. We were looking into that, so you can't say 3 towns are building this facility. Each town will pay 1/3 of the 20% and you give us the money and we'll build the thing.
I
No, you got
I can't understand why that is, given that the state really likes collaboration on.
They do,
Regionalizing schools
But-
and everything else.
but when it comes to steep grants, they are not happy.
Okay,
We've been around and around for that for 3 or 4 months and it's.
Are there other options for funding outside of steep? Need for regionalizing?
I don't know, we're going through CROG for the personnel, that's why that's why we split it up, is because. And again, if you need to staff a facility where you take care of animals 24/7, you need. One full-time person and a bunch of part-time people to come in and on the off hours and the weekends and stuff, and. This way, what you do is you get 2 full-time people, but they cover 2 facilities. So we may be able to have a significant. Personnel savings, then you need half as many trucks and half as much communications and. So, and communications is going down this year, it's only, I think it's going down $1,000 or something, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Stuart Cow, not Stuart, Tyler Millers. We'll give you both, credit for that one,
Are we talking about,
the animal
Radio?
control, communications. So. Right now, the town of Willington is paying 100% of the cost of animal control communications for the towns of Stafford, Ashford, and Willington.
okay. Mhm. That's where the change is happening?
Yeah, that's one of the changes, yeah, so what would happen is that we'd end up. Probably even paying a little bit more to pay for the communications for Holland, and then they'd be manning the facility for us and. Making sure it stays warm and paying for oil and stuff, so we still haven't figured out those agreements.
Mhm.
We're working on the personnel agreements first and the facility agreements second. Turns out that people have done this before, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but. I'm behind the curve on this. I'm trying to catch up best I can. But yeah, so move that to year 2,
So
and
this 375, that's
that's
engineering, construction.
engineering, construction, everything for a facility that is Department of Ag compliant.
Okay.
And large enough to fit our current needs, because. Turns out that there's more and more animal hoarding cases lately, and when you suddenly have to take care of 125 dogs and 15 cats and 35 birds. 20 turtles.
So if the regionalization thing goes away, then that is the
The
cost.
regionalization goes away, that's our cost.
If this gets regionalized on our facility.
If that gets regionalized on our facility, then what we're gonna do is we'll be working on steep grants, and then we will have buy-in from the other towns to help us with it.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Grants for other projects,
Yes,
which are still being covered anyway.
yeah. The-
Anybody else? All right. It's the balance of the requests today.
What's this big gov bagger list here? Is this the contractor?
That's that's what they came in and reviewed.
Schedule values.
Yeah, and the Brock provided that.
The last page. of
Tonight's
that-
breakout.
Okay,
The last page of that, your last sheet is probably the Fund 17. They have,
Yeah. I saw that.
put together. So. Well, a couple. Is that next on our list? That's right.
But yeah,
Yes, it is. All right, moving on. Fund 17 review. Donna, thank you for providing. This is great. We do have a couple of questions. So we talked that balance was discussed last meeting, and the projected balance, which is what I said, at 380 something $1,000. 386,137 is not the current.
It is,
Actual balance.
this is the actual balance, so if you look on
For
2023.
Yes.
This is the actual ending fund balance.
Yep. So, but the ending fund balance as of 2024, because there were not expenditures that were anticipated, and we'll go into that, but. What you're saying is the fund balance is 581,049.
Yes,
So that is the current balance as of July 1st, 2024.
yes, actually,
That's the actual balance,
Yes.
and those differences, and I don't have your email open in front of me, but some of that change in balance is the remainder, that $80,000 for design and engineering
yes,
of Willington #1 at Station 13 edition. So that savings, that lack of spending, is captured in that 581 already.
So that's added to the 386, 136.
No, so that five, so, and this is where I'm trying to make sure we understand it. So there are a couple of things that we had $175,000 in anticipated spending. That didn't happen in that last calendar year. The Station 13 balance of 75,000 and change was one of them. The squad, what's that number? Ambulance.
Lease,
Yeah,
which they didn't happen.
ambulance 513 refurb didn't happen yet, correct? That's what we're talking about. For something along the lines of 46,000,
Yes,
okay.
and the refurbish of the 1991 PT was not, fully expended.
All right. So because of that, we have a greater balance. The question I have, Donna, is that number drops for recurring lease payments from 83,000 to 10,000.
Yes,
Our CIP plan has at least $70,000 of lease payments for 3 trucks in it that extend out at least before year 4 of our plan.
are you talking about trucks or other elements?
I'm talking about recurring lease payments, which is my
Yes.
question. So all of these. Oh, no, sorry, all of these,
Yes,
those aren't showing up.
yes, yes, they are each year. They are showing up each year in the estimated expenditures, but they're not showing up in here. Because
Yes.
this is what's completed, this is what's going forward. So
But
I
this-
didn't project,
But this is in the past,
correct, that's
Yeah.
in the past.
so we didn't, the lease payments,
Talking,
the lease payments for those 3 line items that I'm talking about. It's
the Tahoe, the ambulance, and that's it. You're talking about 2 things, right? 12,000.
In the building.
Lease payment for the Tahoe,
and
Right there.
10,000, yep, the
that's
12,
there.
the
The
48.
48 is there for the ambulance, the 10 is ambulance
So that
payroll.
48, that was the
And then all
refurb squad 114, got it.
And then. this
Okay,
is
so
not
that
2
coming
pages.
forward,
Yes,
okay, so that 10,000 is that squad, that ambulance refurbishment is gonna hit
yes,
in some way, shape or form,
yes.
depending on what and nothing's happened on that yet.
The chassis has been delivered to the dealer in Florida,
Okay,
the old ambulance.
Yeah.
That's just went down there, this week. And they're anticipating a new chassis will be coming shortly. And, the vendor is predicting 5 months for it to come back.
and that is captured as a lease. Or that is anticipated as, I guess what I'm wondering is with this balance, is there a way to, yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get at, with this balance. Are there opportunities for reducing that lease payment and paying for that already committed? For that one,
The lease, I believe, has not been signed because we don't have the VIN number yet.
gotcha,
Once we get the VIN number, that's when you can execute the
We
lease.
didn't even go out to borrow the money yet. We didn't even go out to bid to the vendor to borrow the money.
okay.
So, yeah.
What, this isn't fun anymore?
Have a good evening. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
so we have, so what's hanging out there that's gonna come this year is something, some version of a payment.
Yes.
Unless we make other accommodations for that ambulance refurb.
It's definitely the lease payment.
Okay. Yeah. Is that already?
So could you give us the elevator speech about
Yes.
how this plays out and how it, because you guys are talking over spreadsheets that we're not looking at, so can
So,
you
yeah, I'm
recap for us?
go for it, Don. I'm just, yeah, I wanted to make sure I understood the number and because bottom line, there is a fund balance that's greater than we anticipated or greater than
Right.
expected, which is great. 581,000 sitting in there, which is wonderful. This net revenue, the boxes in blue at the bottom of your net revenue trend,
Yes,
the last 2 years where it's increased, those were the 2 ambulance years. probably a little bit of a year before, right?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
But Stuart could tell us the exact time that that second ambulance went into service.
You're on the spot, Stuart.
So the revenue wasn't additional revenue based on the second ambulance. It was, you didn't lose revenue
Correct.
because the truck would be in the shop for
So
3,
it's
4,
not
5 weeks at a time.
But I guess what I'm trying to get at is we have ambulances in the shop now, so projecting, while there is a bit, where there has been an increase in net revenue
Yes,
with the second ambulance,
yes.
that increase may not track forward at least for the next couple of years while that service.
Not based on the ambulance. One trend that is going on is the facility known as High Chase in South Wellington.
Yeah.
Some years, go back a few years, we do 115 calls a year in that place.
Mhm.
Where last month we did 5. Since it burned, they moved everybody out. And the folks that are there now do not call an ambulance nearly as much. So if we lose 50 calls a year at $500 a whack, just based on the demographics of who's there, our revenue may go down. And that's, I think Jimmy mentioned before, it's unstable revenue. You don't know what it is. You can look at the trends, go back 5 years, 10 years. That 200,000 number was a pretty good number for quite a few years. But 2023 was certainly a good year, and 2024 was pretty good as well. That helps, get ahead of the game. 581 is certainly I think an unprecedented balance for that fund. You don't want to go. We don't know what the new year's gonna be. We haven't seen really any changes in the reimbursement rates. This year is the first year the state did not allow an increase in the rate of what we're allowed to bill. Keeping in mind, the payment we receive is not tied to the rate. Between Medicare, Medicaid, the state, and individual insurance companies, they kind of pay whatever they feel like paying. So even if it says you can charge $1,000 for an ambulance call, they might pay you 200 for Medicaid, might pay 500 for Medicare. One doesn't necessarily go with the other.
Yeah.
But isn't the Medicaid rate the one that stands as far as what insurers will pay now?
No, Medicaid is for Medicaid only patients that don't have any other types of supplemental insurance. Medicare is almost double what Medicaid is. And some people have Medicare and supplemental insurance, which they pay more. People that are not on Medicare or Medicaid that have private insurance, depends on the insurance company. Sometimes they pay the bill in full, which is great if they do. And some pay a portion of it.
I don't know whether the mechanics of it really make too much, really matter all much. I guess what I'm trying to get at in the discussion here is that, okay, we have that net revenue that has gone up with the 2 ambulances being in service. So from that net revenue line item, we also have recurring lease payments coming out of Fund 17. Which are your lease payments principal and lease payments interest, right? So anywhere from $120,000 to $80,000 across the 4 years is committed from that net revenue, correct? These line items. So this total, but we're also committed to those lease payments from that total.
Correct.
Okay, so the actual free balance or net revenue is only after the recurring lease payments in year 2020 was only about $40,000. That was the net add to Fund 17. It was 70,000 give or take in 2021 after the recurring lease payments, 102 in 2022. It's jumped the past 2 years with the ambulance to 155 and 230 total, because even in 2024 we just talked about the expenditures dropped. We didn't commit funds to it. So there's anywhere, given the unreliability of the funding coming from like $100,000 to $175,000 perhaps in net revenue after lease payments. Historically,
I agree.
okay. So in the context of the larger equipment needs, and I had asked Donna, because it was mentioned by Tyler, I believe. Donna had run some numbers on a lease payment for a new $900,000 truck, which is $146,000 a year. Which puts Fund 17 potentially underwater with one vehicle purchase. And there's that need to prioritize an ambulance site in that as well, correct? So I don't know how that complicates it, but if it's a $500,000 ambulance, that's like $80,000 a year on a lease payment, using that same calculator. So the balance is even less. So the incoming to Fund 17 is not viable for a full placement without offsetting elsewhere. Or funding it from a different funding source. And that's really the larger context. As we factor in and figure out how we're funding these pieces of equipment, that's why I asked about the ambulance refurb. Whether there was a way to take that $50,000 out of the lease payment for the next 5 years, because we have the balance in Fund 17. To cover some of it, you know, or reduce it. There's a refurb of another truck for like 250,000, right?
Yeah, 245, I think, yeah. Yeah, it's 250.
You know, maybe that can be covered rather than being a lease payment, because we have the fund balance in Fund 17. The instant we commit a truck, that balance in Fund 17 is not gonna grow appreciably anymore.
The refurb is probably not eligible for a lease. Because it's still the same chassis.
There you go. Or financing, maybe not a lease, but
Yeah.
one way or the other. So I guess that's where I'm trying to like understand this. Because Fund 17, once we get a truck, isn't generating positive income. And if there are 2 other trucks on the list a couple of years out, it becomes problematic. So this is very helpful, Donna. Thank you. I don't know what we use for projections. We can discuss that. Do you have a recommendation based on? It's really how long that one ambulance is not making that extra revenue. You know, I don't know where the 175 that we had carried as an ad each year. For net revenue prior to commitments. It might still be a good hold temporarily, till we see where things shake out.
I think it's a good conservative number.
Yeah.
Donna, any feeling on what the income is this fiscal year?
No,
This question was better than your answer, Don.
I thought it was a fine answer, just didn't get us anywhere.
All right. So. When we evaluate the plan over the coming weeks, that's just something to think about. Anybody else have any other questions?
When we have the plan with the updated numbers, will we have the fund balance that we have to use for planning purposes in the spreadsheet?
That's the 581. That is the fund balance in there. Yes, right.
yes, you're correct. That would be,
Have you had any expenses since then? But yeah, that's fine.
well,
It's a half year old. Is the only.
The lease for the Wellington Health Service truck should be coming up with that.
you're correct. It's a half year old, but it's the actual number and it's gonna just, you know, move up to the top and be the basis for
Well, we're gonna be at the end of this coming fiscal year. At the end of this current fiscal year. Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, moving on. And just keep it as a background tool for future things, future discussion. All right, next up was release of funds, just catch up and close out of some of the questions and discussions we had at the last meeting related to releasing funds for either abandoned, reimagined, completed projects. So Donna and I had a good conversation on Monday, trying to understand this stuff. So long story short, if a project, Fund 4 requires approval of a distinct project by the Board of Finance and then a town meeting. If I'm saying any of this wrong, jump in, I'm just trying to summarize my understanding of it. Closing out a project that's been approved is an administrative function. Generally, when the project is complete, if there's remaining funds available towards that project, it goes back to Fund 4 capital reserve. So if a project is complete and there's $5,000 left on the project, no further work is anticipated. It's just administrative function to say the project is closed, the balance goes back to Fund 4.
The administrator of the department.
It's,
Project manager, is ever in charge of the project?
Okay.
No, would let me know,
Okay.
it's just. how
so
it goes, like
it's, yeah, exactly. So it's basically a courtesy to understand that the project has been identified as being closed. Some projects, if they don't go, if a project has been out there and it changed, but we've been carrying the line item. That is also an administrative function, meaning if the project is, something has transferred or changed complete scope, or if it has been usurped by another project or another need. It again is just an administrative function of saying we're not going to carry those funds allocated anymore, with the courtesy of confirming with the submitting department. Specific to the two we talked about last time, which was the 110 for Willington Hill, 25 Old Farms Front Road Surveying and Engineering. Because those did not get specific approval by the Board of Finance or go to town meeting, there is no further action by Board of Finance or by the town. It again falls back into that courtesy of it's an administrative function if the project is dead to close it out, with the courtesy of reaching out to the submitting department, the chiefs, to say, yes, this project is no longer valid, or not going to go ahead in the form that it was originally intended. So it is, as a planning tool, I'm going to recommend that we go ahead towards closing those two projects. We'll get to Fund 17 in a minute. The 110 for survey and engineering, and it seems like the chiefs were amenable to it. As a procedural thing, and I will of course continue to reach out with Chief Snyder to formally request that, courtesy to make sure all the ducks are in line. But that 110 in Fund 4 is available.
Do you mean taking that line item out entirely?
Yeah, the line comes out of the plan as a close, as essentially a
Yes.
closed
And what
project.
about the other one, the 80,000?
So the 80,000 is Fund 17, and that expenditures from Fund 17 go through the CIP plan
85.
and then get approved by Board of Finance, and then the CIP plan gets approved by the Board of Finance. Which is the public disclosure, public, approval for authorizing the use of those funds. From Fund 17.
Then it's voted
That's
on
true,
the town
both.
meeting.
Both of them are part of the public approval.
So, yes, but the next CIP plan is a re-representation of that commitment,
Mhm.
which then gets approved by Board of Finance.
Hmm.
So if our CIP plan doesn't carry that 80,000 because the project is otherwise closed, that commitment will conceptually go away in my mind. But again, the same principle applies. It becomes there is no further Board of Finance action if the project dies. It's an administrative close of a project. And then the unspent balance would go back into Fund 17.
So the big question is actually, is it an administrative close? So if the project for the 110 was surveying of 25 old farms, which is gonna have to be done at some point.
But it may not be done as a separate project, and it's not gonna be done by.
It may not be done as a separate project, but Until we determine that, and I'm not sure that the return on those funds is entirely appropriate. It's to be discussed. I know, we're gonna disagree on it. And if we can't disagree, then why the hell are we here? Why don't we just all vote on the same thing? But that's something that needs to be gone over with Chief Snyder, and I don't think we're far enough along with the facilities building plan to know whether that project's dead or not.
Well,
But as soon as we do, then yes, I would agree with you that project would be dead.
well, given the discussion last week, I think that request has been made of the departments that are debating it. My argument
They're
is
debating it.
we cannot commit $500,000 or $600,000 of funds across multiple different projects towards the development of that when we have a full committee devoted to it. So from a standpoint, given that we have $113,000 in Fund 04 currently, I can't see any other reason but to release those funds,
I know you can't,
because that project.
and like you said,
that
we
project
disagree.
and that's fine, but
And I think what we might wanna do is move that money over to the building committee. We don't just wanna release it back into the wild for whatever.
I think the building committee is more than welcome to submit a supplemental request fee. But again, they have $200,000 at their disposal.
Right,
The schools did it in a lot less. And I can't commit, and
Well,
honestly, it was a residual thing, we should have tied up last year because we had the ability to do it. We
right,
should
but
have
the
done it
school
before we transferred.
school building committee, I think, had a different charge. And that could be, I could be wrong on that too, but I think that what we need to do is we have certain functions that we have to perform that the school building didn't have to perform. They had to go out and look at land, they didn't have to survey it for drainage, access, all that kind of stuff.
Would have been a part of the bonded project.
It would have been part of the bonded project, and we don't have a bonded project here yet.
Correct,
We might,
but we might, and it'll probably be
and
part
that's,
of that bonded
that's
project.
might. So,
But again, I'm not tying up $110,000 on might, because there is no project there currently. There is even.
well,
there's a project on
there's still a project to survey, whether that project is a separate project or.
There isn't a
different
project at 25 Old Farms Road yet. That's what the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee is set to find out.
But you don't know if there's a project or not till you can survey and
Yeah,
find out
I
if you can do
kind
it,
of have a
so.
problem with this whole thing, and it's kind of, I'm thinking about CIP and it's sort of
Yeah.
what the tacit understanding has been forever. We're focusing on the firehouses, which have a building committee set up now. There's obviously gonna be activity.
Right,
It's, you know, there's a high possibility it's gonna affect 25. So we're talking about removing funds, applying them elsewhere, but we've got this other thing that's like, we know it's got an active committee trying to move that
Right.
forward. We have a lot of other people who have over the years had projects in the place. The road projects are, you know, even that way, 30 years or whatever they've been in the plan. I think if you start sort of saying, well, we don't think this doesn't have whatever the credentials to stay in the plan anymore. We want to move this money and use it otherwise. We're kind of opening a bigger can of worms than just the firehouses,
I
I think.
disagree completely with that stuff, because that
Oh,
was,
I'm sure you would.
that was the
Yeah.
intent when we committed the $200,000 to the Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee. Was the expectation or our desire was to allocate that 110 to that project. Because the the committee is the body responsible for doing it. There is, and they have the ability to use $160,000 that they have remaining to complete that engineering.
no,
And if they have a project-
they came and asked for that money for engineering, they were told it's just for planning, whatever that meant, not for engineering, so
It's,
yeah, it was an iffy subject with the Board of Finance. So.
which is exactly why I don't think we should be committing the spending until they understand what the project is and what the actual expenditures are. And this is $110,000 that could be used towards any one of a number of things, including a fire truck.
You opened that can of worms, we decided your project
I
is done,
just,
turn the money back in.
you know, we're
We didn't
focusing on,
decide the project was done. You
we're
allocated when
focusing
you
on
started a
one
whole new
example
committee.
here, and I just.
No, I didn't.
My sense is it could have a ripple effect that goes much further, and honestly, I don't know that I'm acutely minded enough right now to make this decision tonight.
Well, we're not gonna
Because
make
we're
a
just sitting here for 2.5 hours.
Well, no, go ahead.
But
I think this contradicts what we just talked about. So if a project is declared dead or abandoned, reimagined, or completed, it's an administrative function to have that conversation with Donna, right? That's what we just talked about. So that there's a courtesy that the administrator of the project speaks to Donna and lets her know that that project is abandoned, reimagined, or completed.
Yep, and we've made that reach out to Tom.
Yes, so that's where our job's done. In my opinion, our job is done. If Tom reaches out to Donna and says this plan is no longer viable, then that's the procedure that we have at this point. I don't see that we have any purview to take things out or put things. Like
We do, because there is no other purview.
our purview is to
We have the
take
ability,
requests from people and to discuss the viability of them when they're here. And then to put them in the plan and try and figure out how to fund them.
absolutely, and we did that last year by committing those funds to $200,000 to the emergency services facility building. To figure out what these.
that 200 came from a different
Specifically at the
project.
request of the Board of Finance, or not,
Right.
and not necessarily at the request of the Board of Finance, but
It
because
came
the
from
Board
a
of Finance
request from
wouldn't,
me.
Board of Finance wouldn't release any of these funds. Specifically because it was haphazard development by multiple different groups, which is why he created a committee to organize and run these
But
projects.
we're talking about the 110,000.
Correct, which
Which was
I
a different
believe that-
project,
which my recommendation is. that-
Predates all that.
Which
which
my
predates all of that.
correct, that it was
And-
converted.
No,
It
the
wasn't
200,000 came from
The
a different
intent
line
of the
item,
development of the
a
project.
different line item, not this line item.
So,
So there was like 310 out there, but 200 of it went to the committee and.
and there's $600,000 tied up in this currently.
Oh, at least, yeah,
Correct, which is,
I don't know.
it shouldn't be this hard, is all I'm trying to say. The project, my recommendation is that these funds can be much better used
Okay,
for any
So-
of the millions of dollars of
Jim,
engineering in the
Jim.
future.
take a break.
I'm making that recommendation to
You
this,
just made the recommendation.
that's all.
That you've made it, let's move on to the next line item, because I think you've recommended, so let's go.
Okay. With that said, I do think it is beholden of this committee to take stances and make recommendations to the greatest extent we can, even if that's uncomfortable, Pete, because.
Yeah, no, go
because we
ahead.
Don't.
Let's
have
vote on
money.
it. Because that's how committees forward recommendations.
Correct, so we have, at further discussion last week. I have had conversations via email with Chief Snyder.
Yes,
He is talking to his board
Yes.
about the understanding of how to release those funds
yes,
with his members.
yes.
And we will, because I know.
So we've
I
already
know
made the
motions-
recommendation, he's already
Correct, so
taking it under consideration, so
we
why are
will
we
wait
still
for that.
talking about it?
Because,
But I don't care.
correct, let's see where that goes from now, and
Yeah.
if that $110,000 is overly critical, it's gonna be a taxpayer hit.
Right.
If we have to fund another project from go for.
This
It's all
guy,
trying to say.
this guy in the corner is, like, talking about taxpayer hits all the time, so I feel like. And also, because
Trying to
Pete
be
is the,
trying to be cognizant of that.
because Pete is the, kind of keeper of that emergency building committee. I think that is where that kind of moving the money around feels better to me, like not here. He. I don't know.
And
So
and plus,
what is the
and not for
process?
nothing, but we
Anyway.
exist because the select, that, you know, because we're an advisory committee to the selectmen. So we're reporting all this to Pete, he's making the decisions,
Well, my board is,
your board is.
yes, and I know they have very different opinions than I do on a lot of things, just like on this board apparently. So, but Tim, I seriously believe we beat this to death after 2.5 hours tonight, and I am getting ready to go because I'm losing my
I'm aware
ability
that
to sit here.
I'm aware that once we get past a certain point, you're just trying to get out, so. With that said, yes, we are done, we will figure this out once we get word back from Chief Snyder. And honestly, once we figure out what the level of need is, we'll go from there. So with that, no further comments. Present to speak is next on the agenda, I believe, correct? And nobody in the room, so Mike, you're up.
Thank you, Mike McCoo, Clover Springs. For anyone who doesn't know who's listening, in addition to what I said before about the having been on CIP, having been a selectman, and having been Board of Finance chairman, I'm also a member of Willington Hill Fire Department, and I'm also representing Willington Hill on the Facilities Building Committee. So now that all that's out of the way, this this topic, as we know, is near and dear to my heart. We expounded on it quite a bit last week at the CIP meeting. I think the conversation is getting a little closer to the proper place. I am completely in agreement with the chairman that tying up $581,000 in sort of a unspecified or uncorralled manner is not fiscally prudent. 100% agree with that. I think the fire department, Willington Hill Fire Department, agrees with that. The recommendation, I think, is reasonable. But I think at that point, I would suggest for the consideration of this group that I believe it is very correct to consider the fact that this is not a board, first of all, it's a committee. The members of this have limited decision-making power because they are a committee and they are not elected by the people of the town. This committee has no fiscal power. It has no fiscal decision-making power. And it has very little power looking back. It is advisory planning committee. So it should make this advice, it should do the planning, it should send it to the Board of Selectmen. The Willington Hill Fire Department or any other submitting organization does not need to and probably shouldn't come back to this group and say, you can close out this project, because this group has no fiscal responsibility or decision-making power. The CIP can't call Donna and say, Donna, I heard from the library that they're done. You can close that project out. There is no, this committee reports to the Board of Selectmen with a plan and suggestions and can strongly suggest that this money be put to other use, to good use, which it is doing. The committee works in this advisory capacity. A lot of discussion happened about it tonight. And then there are these moments where the chairman says, I can't approve of this use of money. I can't approve of tying up money. I can't have this happen. I can't do this. Statements like that go through the record. You can listen to the tape after tonight and see the chairman saying things like that. It is not the chairman's decision. It is not the committee's decision. It is to recommend, to plan. Send it up the line. The Willington Hill Fire Department or the library can go to Donna and say, we've closed the project. That is the right way. Or can go to the taxpayers. And to be honest with you, multiple times these projects have come to the Board of Finance for the Board of Finance to do that closeout. If that was the wrong procedure, then hooray for us. No joke. Hooray for us that we're getting better at doing the right procedure. No question. But a lot of these projects have come to the Board of Finance, so the Board of Finance can make an official decision to close projects. And where I think the key difference is, hoping that was the right procedure, is that the decision was made by people elected by the people of the town in the majority in the democratic process to represent them, to make decisions for them on their financial impact and the progress of the town. The electors of the town did not have the opportunity to pick the people who are here tonight in this committee. I think it's a great group, but the electors didn't have the chance. So if this committee somehow wiggles its way into having the power to close projects or to decide to defund a line and actually make that recommendation to the finance department, you now have people who are appointed, could all be appointed to the favor of one side or another, who are making decisions that the electors then don't have the power to have a say in. I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Nick, please identify yourself.
This is Nick Tella, Myrtle Road, Willington. Not sure if you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're good.
Awesome. So I have I personally don't even know what this commission does because at the end of the day, I would like to see all these decisions being brought to the actual departments. May it be, Public Works directly or Board of Education. I mean, you guys can make recommendations. Just there's a lot of wasted time on this board. I don't even know what you guys have even accomplished. I mean, going into Public Works today, I mean, they should have came to you guys. Here's our 5 projects, 6 projects. Let's talk about it. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours on something like this. It didn't need to be. Oh, someone's gonna shut down on me. Didn't need to be 2.5 hours on something like this. They need to prioritize what exactly is going on. I mean, they're talking about how we could be fined for some whatever they were saying, the drainage and stuff like that, but then they want tractors and stuff like that. The number one thing should be protecting the town. If we need to spend money to prioritize to get this corrected, the salt filtration, that's what we need to spend time on, not mowing and tractors and all this stuff. That's nice stuff, but that's not what we need to be doing. I was just looking at other towns. Some towns don't even have any mention of CIP. And New Hartford did. They were about 1,000 people more than us. I was looking at their year 1, which is about 500,000 for their CIP. Their maximum was 850,000. Here we're sitting at $2.8 million, and we're a smaller town population-wise, and we have 5 less square miles than they do, and we're that much more in our capital improvement plan. That's ridiculous. So that's all I have. I know it's been a long night, but my 2 cents.
Thank you, Nick. Peter.
Peter Lotintich, 97 Trask Road. Just a question, if I might ask, of the chair or the committee. When on the calendar do you submit your proposed CIP plan to the Board of Selectmen?
Sorry.
The draft that I think, give me a second, Peter, and I can answer that question. Did you have anything else while we look it up?
No, just that one simple question, if I might.
Is that on the site?
Yes.
Budget calendar? Yeah,
Yes.
saw that.
Our meeting calendar is, it is not open. Because I have it.
Pete, can we get back to you on that?
Certainly, and just also clarify the
March 19th, Pete, is the deadline for this committee before we present the plan to the Board of Finance. The Board of Selectmen present to the Board of Finance on March 6th.
March 6th, great. So it would go through the Board of Selectmen first and then subsequent to the Board of Finance, or vice versa?
We're not really sure about that, Pete.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you, okay?
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete. Anybody else? I see no hands. Going once, going twice.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You didn't have to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Donna.